All of them as well. What a move for the 48. Oh, look at this. And onto the straight they come.
Brilliant move there from the number 40 to make it through. That left-hander sliding up the inside, going up now over Hawthorne Hill, down Pilgrim's Drop, and it's brilliant stuff here at Brands Hatch.
Don't trust your hearing. You made a monster, I'm your imposter. Go ahead and wander, but don't trust the water.
Hello everybody and welcome to the hills of Italy as we go racing for round 6 in the World Sportscar Championship of 2024. We're very much getting towards the end of our season. This is indeed the last time. We've got a week off between now and our next event. It's a double header finale that we're very much setting ourselves up for here with 90 minutes of racing at Mugello. It's myself, Ewan O'Leary, and Jack Stiles alongside me once again for this round of the championship. Good to be back for this one. Zach and Zach? Goodness me, it's not a good start. It's LMP3 and GT4 racing again. It's a tight and twisty circuit where traffic, I'm sure, is going to play a huge part, and it's going to be a very important race as well in some extremely close championship battles.
Yeah, of course, as you say, coming towards the end of the season, 3 rounds to go, including this week, and traffic is indeed going to be an important part of this circuit. It's tight, it's twisty, it's a circuit that really rewards patience in the driving style of the drivers. I think if you're too aggressive at Mugello, you can very quickly lose time. Lots of fast, sweeping curves, and lots of hard braking zones as well, and of course that very long front straight that's going to allow a lot of passing opportunities down into the first corner.
Speaking of long front straights, have a look at Fuji in a couple of weeks' time as well, by the way. Sebring to end off the season as well, of course. This is the last time we'll have a week off in this series, so make sure you get ready for the double header right to the very end of the season, because it's going to be very exciting indeed, and we're very much looking forward to seeing who is going to come out on top of any of these championships. First of all, with the LMP3 pros, who are all covered, top 4 are covered anyway, by just 6 points. It's remarkable, really, to see just how close it is in LMP3 Pro, and indeed in all the classes. As I say, the top 4-ish in all of them, separated by pretty small margins. There you have it in LMP3 Pro. It's Christoph Hovenio leading by a couple of points ahead of Nathan Moore, Adam State and Matt Caruana, who round out the championship contenders, and then the rest of them who aren't separated by that much themselves either. Matthias Pentela, Julien Plumet, Callum Brandt, Nikolai Loft, Leo Boneman and Taylor Lane in LMP3 Pro. In LMP3 AM, we've got 8 points covering the top 4. Peter Herschel is leading now ahead of Mac Levarco and Mads Kjelsen and Jus Boymeister, who's won races this season. Adam Locke is the first of the best of the rest, if you like. Dan Piazza is with him, along with Nicholas Skeets and Adam Hedgecock. Nicholas Salaputin and Dallin Banshaw have missed a few rounds. It is GT4 Pro next, where the top 4 are also covered by just 8 points. Timo Hayden is ahead of Adam Isaacson, Sasha Anglesey and Matt Loveridge. Charles Marks Burgess has missed a round or so, and so is quite a few points back. Alessandro Poti the same, along with Jeremy Rollo. Emmanuel Gazzella is 8th, ahead of Michael Pedersen and Ashley Finch. And then the GT4 AMS, it's just 2 points between Josh Boot and Lee King McGee. And then, excuse me, 31 back, Jack Wilkins in that 3rd position. We've got Paul King and Jack Osborne to round out the top 5, with Evan Staffas on the same points. Lee Berridge is 7th, ahead of Rob Sutherland, Howard Hassan and Ben Hicks to round out the top 10. So, all in all, Jack, the championship standings are very close indeed. It doesn't get any less close in the team standings. Top 3 team covered by 5 points. WSR Esports, Bookkicker leading, Richter Engineering Esports and Impulse Racing. I think it's a legacy slightly of the 2 drop rounds we got this season, as opposed to just one which we had last time round, but it's creating a fantastic situation this time round.
Yeah, the drop round's helping, I think, as well. The strong result in LMP3 Pro for WSR Esports, Nathan Moore and Adam State at Daytona last time out. Of course, they got a 1-2 despite quite literally late race efforts to stop them doing so. That's really helped them bring them back into the LMP3 Pro standings and the team standings as well. Of course, the teams can work slightly differently here, and you are allowed to use drivers across different classes. So we're seeing WSR Esports have been incredibly strong in LMP3, not really been towards the front in the GT4 category. Impulse Racing very strong in the GT4 category, and there's a couple of teams in there that have had the cross class points as well really start to add up on your screens. Adam Watson in the Altitude Esports Porsche Cayman GT4, he's new to the championship for this round, and he is joining us for the last 3.
Yeah, we've got a few new drivers in fact to join us for the World Sportscar Championship this season. Not sure how many of them we're going to see tonight, but Adam Watson is indeed one of them. Francois Perdreau, as well as Dan Blackwell as well. Francois Perdreau is indeed in the session. He's currently 11th in GT4 AM as qualifying goes at the moment. And Dan Blackwell is indeed in the session too, although he's an LMP3 driver. He's just qualified second in LMP3 AM, just behind Mads Kelton. We'll go through the LMP3s in a few moments' time. It's about GT4 qualifying first, and a pretty big day in GT4 Pro. Some very small gaps actually between those at the front, and so Thomas Max Burgess is really taking some points away from teammates at the moment, including Timo Hayden and Sasha Anglesey, who just go up to second and third. And then in GT4 AM, it's about Leaky McGee and Josh Boot, who are the 1-2 in that one, and there is a bit of a gap between those two at the moment. But it feels like an important day, to be honest. There's only 2 rounds until we get to that final one, where the drop rounds are rendered not insignificant, but you can't take your drop rounds as a final round. And so it feels like this round is pretty significant, with the last week off coming up next time round, and then those final 2 events back to back.
Yeah, and I think that, as you say, the drop weeks have been incredibly important. It's brought the likes of Matt Loveridge back into the championship. He didn't compete in round 1, joined the series in round 2, and it's been incredibly strong since. Monza and Daytona really being circuits which has shown that he has the pace. He's done some clever strategy, which is the same as what Impulse Racing have done. As we look at Thomas Marks Burgess heading up through the top end of the circuit. And I think that's incredibly important, Ewan. It's showing that the strategy is important. I think, again, it's going to be important here today. The times are more spread. This is much more going to be a circuit that suits a driver as opposed to teams trying to work together. That was, I believe, that's Lee Berridge in the 51 McLaren off in the background in strife in qualifying. He has got back underway, but with only 5 minutes left in the session, he's cutting it tight to get back in and get a new set of tyres on that McLaren and get another lap under his belt. So an incredibly important race here today, Ewan. It's going to have to be patient. I think that's the word of the day. If you try and attack this circuit too much, I haven't raced around here, I have driven around here though, and if you attack it too much, it doesn't reward you. The drivers have to really try and flow and find a rhythm, and that's where they're going to find the time.
This must be the only place in the world where I've raced and you haven't. In that case,
potentially
not in the real world. I'm talking about in the sim, of course. I feel like I remember fighting for a pretty important championship sort of race around here before. It sort of rings a bell. Don't ask me for any details though, because I can't really remember. It was a long time ago since I used to drive. Can't remember the last competitive race I had, to be honest with you. Anyway, Matt Loveridge is the new leader. Pretty unexpected time from him, actually. He's 4th in the standings and has been on the quiet side, I would say, this season. But thinking about it, he's right up there. He's only 8 points away from Timo Hayden, who currently leads. And don't forget how many points, by the way, you get for pole position. You get a point added as a bonus for your efforts in qualifying if you are on pole. So could be a pretty important point for Matt Loveridge, but he is up there despite the fact we haven't spoken about him maybe as much as the other 3 who are up there in GT4 Pro.
And I think as well I think Matt Loveridge, one of the drivers who's maybe thinking a little bit more, of course all the others, their drop scores really are big drop scores. There's not really anyone who's, apart from Adam Isaacson in the first round, who's really hit big strife. The Impulse Racing cars have all run pretty consistently all the way through this season. So Matt Loveridge, of course, he has got that 0 score from round 1 hanging over his head. So he is going to be conscious of that. Realistically, he has 1 drop score that he's going to drop, so he needs to be consistent over the course of the last 3 rounds. So that again, but as you say, yeah, he's been an underdog. He was incredibly strong at Monza, but wasn't, maybe not so much in qualifying. It was race pace that really brought him back, and some clever strategy, and it was the same at Daytona, and he came away with an incredible result 2 weeks ago. Obviously currently sitting on pole position with 2 minutes and 40 seconds to go. One thing I do want to point out, and you can see him in the foreground of the shot in the purple, white and black Mercedes, is Josh Boot. He's only 4/10 off overall GT4 pole, so that AM class as well, incredibly close to the pace that the pros are putting on.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be a decent time as well if he was in the pro ranks with Josh Boot, but that's been the case for a lot of this season. He's actually accumulated the most points of anyone across any of the classes so far this season, by the way, with 122. That is his best 3 results, as we are dropping 2. So think of it this way: you'll take 5 from the first 7, if this is not too confusing, to best 5 of the first 7, and then everyone takes their final round. Well, I can't give you the exact reason the organiser wanted to do it, but it makes it a damn sight easier for us. So I'm not going to be complaining about that one at all. It does increase the chances of a championship finale taking place as well, which at the moment, don't want to jinx it, but it looks like it may well transpire for all 4 categories. In the end, to be honest, in the first season we only really had one to speak of. It was a very exciting finale with GT4 AM. However, it was the only one really which could realistically change over the course of the day, and did indeed provide the entertainment for us on that occasion. That was at Daytona. We've already crossed that circuit this season as well. Now it's time for a new finale place at Sebring by the time we get to the end of round 8. Of course, in the previous season, in season 1, this round 6, would have been the finale, because that's what we saw in season 1. However, we are back again for 8 rounds this time round in the World Sports Car Championship. On board now with one of the Aston Martins, and a bit of an idea here is to just how you get one of these cars around this circuit, because it's so often talked about as a medium to high speed cornering circuit, if you like, but these cars aren't exactly designed for that. They don't quite have the aero grip that maybe some of the others do.
No, and of course GT4 being very much based on a road car platform, so GT3 much more bespoke GT races. You know, they're sort of more. GT4 is more road car like. You know, once upon a time, if you go back 10 years ago, and the Aston Martin, especially for as an example, because they used to run a lot of them in the UK in the likes of British GT. They were pretty much an upgraded road car. They just put a Motec dash in the middle of the dashboard and off they went. But obviously now they're a little bit more bespoke racing machines, but the rules very much designed to keep these as close to a road car as possible. You know, they don't have the mad aero that GT3 do, and that's going to be an interesting thing around here, with this being, as you say, a medium to high speed cornering circuit, something that really benefits the likes of a Formula 1 car. When we saw the 1000th ever Formula 1 Grand Prix for Ferrari happen here in 2020, and in more recent times, sort of, we've seen endurance racing around here with prototypes, and you know, they really suit the circuit because of the downforce. But GT4, and this is why I was saying patience is going to be the name of the game. Patience for the LMP3s in traffic, patience for the GT4s in the driving style.
Yeah, we're looking forward to seeing how the two interact this time by, as we get another couple of the Porsches to the line. This is the end of the session now. The checker flag's waving, so it's final chance for anybody to improve as we go over the line here. Not sure any of the main positions are changing with those times, so that may well be it. Is Matt Loveridge gonna survive? Well, he's in the pit lane, believing that he will, and Adam Isaacson is going to be pretty much the final driver over the line. He got over with that most recent lap time, which was an improvement on his previous best, with mere seconds remaining, maybe even a singular second, and he's still out there at the moment. Not sure whether he's improving by quite enough to get pole here, but it would be a pretty big steal for him to do so. As I say, there's a point on the line here for this pole position.
Yeah, and that point is going to be important. Adam Isaacson giving it one more shot as he comes out of turn 15 onto the main straight. He's only got to find 4,000th of a second to pit Matt Loveridge to pole, and I can't quite see the splits as he comes across the line. A long run to the start-finish straight, a 1.71. No, he hasn't. I don't think he has improved. It's 8. Is that 8,000th of a second? That is incredibly close, but Matt Loveridge just about holds on to pole position in GT4M.
Well, he will be nervous, but he has just about made it. And earlier on in LMP3 qualifying, he's joined by Nathan Moore as one of those pole sitters at the end of that session. Fantastic time from Moore to take pole by 0.6 of a second ahead of the championship leader Christophe Herbigno. Remy Fortin is up there in third, and Mert Menderes, who's done a good time there, and then we've got Matt Caruana, who is in fifth, one of those championship contenders. Leo Bonneman is sixth, ahead of Julien Plumet, with Mads Kjeldsen, the first of the AM drivers, in 8th place. Dan Blackwell is second in that class, along with used Poemaster Nicholas Skeets. That's the first 4 in AM, ahead of Ben Gregory on the 6th row. Adam Hedgecock and Mac Farquhar round out row 7, ahead of Peter Herschel and Nikolai Loft, and then you get to the GT4s. Matt Loveridge and Adam Isaacson are first up. Then it's Thomas Mark Spurgess and Timo Hayden on an all-impulse racing front row. When was the last time none of them got onto the front row, I wonder. It's Michael Pedersen and Sasha Engelsey next ahead of the leading Joshua Boot, or just Josh. It's Ashley Finch, ahead of Adam Watson, the new driver in 25th. Richard Simners ahead of Kamil Bjorklund, the final driver inside the top 10 of the pros. Then it's second in AM. Jack Osborne quite a long way down on Josh Boot, ahead of Lee King McGee, Gurley Kansama running out the top 30. Jack Wilkins is next ahead of Evan de Tafas. Then we got Lee Berridge, Francois Pedro, who's one of the new drivers on the grid. Jeremy Rouleau wasn't allowed to qualify. Callum Brandt didn't, neither did Taylor Lane or Manuel Gaxella to round out the 38. So a fairly busy grid all over again. A few non-qualifiers, of course, but the main contenders up there. And what should be a good race ahead of us, long formation lap ahead of us, of course, to talk through it all. But should be a good 90 minutes. And as I say, the big talking points are going to be this circuit somewhat, just how narrow it is, just how twisty it is, and just how multi-class traffic, which doesn't see a lot of action around this circuit, is actually going to behave.
No, of course, we've had multi-class races in recent years with the 24-hour series heading here. Of course, we saw the finale for the 24 Hours Esports series on RaceSpotTV on Sunday. So there is some of these drivers will have some experience. It won't be in these cars though. Some may have driven GT4s, but it would have been with GT3s and Porsche Cup cars out the circuit, and not with the LMP3 machinery. So, of course, they've had a warm-up session. They have to acclimatise themselves to the circuit. They have got a full-length pace lap here as well. It's an incredibly long pace lap, actually, if you think about how long this circuit is. So the drivers have got quite a bit of time here to really get themselves ready and psyched up for this one. It's going to be an interesting one, but a little bit of a mix-up at the front as well, which is nice to see. So hopefully we'll see a bit of sort of a good fight at the front, and it's going to be interesting to see how this pulls out, because it was very close in LMP3 qualifying.
Well, the thing you mentioned about 24/8 series is pretty interesting, because that's the kind of notable thing that I find when you look at these two classes. The LMP3s are notably a little bit quicker anyway than some of the cars you might see go around here. We did have an F1 race around here a few years ago, of course, but that was exceptional circumstances, and I can't see it happening again, to be honest with you. It's a class of car and a sort of downforce level of car that you don't always see around here at Mugello in real life. So just wonder how the drivers are going to deal with that, and just wonder how the LMP3 drivers especially have been enjoying this circuit, to be honest. I can imagine the middle sector here with the high downforce corners and these high downforce cars are an absolute dream to drive.
It would be an interesting one. They are a class of car that has run here before. In fact, Johnny Molam, the British Le Mans winner, has got the lap record around here from 2019 when it ran in the Ultimate Cup. So LMP3s, this isn't something that was new to Mugello, but as you say, it's something we've seen very often. The two main series in Europe that run these cars, the European Le Mans Series and the Michelin Le Mans Cup, never come to Mugello. They will usually go to Imola or Monza for their endurance races. So it is going to be an interesting one. Of course, these drivers have a very high quality field here, so I'd expect them to very quickly adjust to a new circuit. Of course, it's something that we get every 3 months really on iRacing. People have to learn new circuits and learn, especially with multi-class, how to deal with traffic. LMP3 and GT4 have a good level of pace difference between them. I'd probably say it's equivalent to the likes of LMP2 and GT3, so if you're used to that kind of pace difference, and we have had the IMSA official series here earlier in the year, or earlier in the season, apologies. So some of these drivers will probably be up to speed with where is best to get past the GT4 drivers. But again, I think it's patience. I think that's going to be the winner here, but you don't want to lose too much time. So I think we will see some people being quite aggressive in traffic, but others probably not so much.
Well, we'll wait and find out. I mean, this has been on the schedule of many iRacing series in recent weeks, even the IndyCar series I remember going here, which was a very fast experience, let's say, because of the downforce that they possess as well. But it's today about the World Sportscar Championship. It's the LMP3 versus GT4 battle, if you like, and just how they're going to interact with one another on the circuit. Very good afternoon to everybody who's tuned in on RaceSpotTV. Hope you're going to enjoy the show here this evening as we get ready for the third last round in this Championship season. It's been such a close one, with the top margins in the championship separated by single digits and then some in all 4 of the classes. It's set up for a wonderful last few weeks. In just 3 weeks we'll know the name of our winner. We're still 3 rounds away from seeing them though. 4.5 hours remain on the clock of this season. We're going to knock 90 minutes off of that here tonight as the field is brought up to the green by Nathan Moore, one of those championship contenders in LMP3. Stops today in second, and he's alongside his big rival. Gets us underway with the green flag waving here at Mugello, and he's already got off to a fantastic jump. It's almost free wide in the background as they all look for second and third positions. Late on the brakes, let's hope they all get through cleanly. There's a bit of contact, a harsh spin indeed, and one of the LMP3s ends up to the outside of the road. Meanwhile, the GT4s get underway a little bit earlier in the straight indeed, as they always tend to do, on this big run down towards the first corner and the big braking zone indeed at the turn 1 as well. Here they go, down on the brakes in GT4. It's going to be Adam Isaacson who's going to be pushed out here by a couple of the Impulse Racing Mercedes. Let's see if he can wing that place back into turn 2. Not quite for the moment. The battle will continue for second place, and indeed he'll lose out here, Adam Isaacson, on the opening lap.
But doors one goes around that looks as though it could have been Ashley Finch. It was in the 21 WSR Esports GT4 machine, but Matt Loveridge has managed to get away at the front of the GT4 Pro field, and the same can be said for Nathan Moore at the front of the LMP3 Pro. Although the LMP3 start may be a little bit scrappy, not everyone's staying in 2x2 formation, so race control might have something to say about that. Of course, the World Sports Car Championship having post-race penalties which will be applied for the next round, hence why we saw Jeremy Rouleau excluded from qualifying. But all these drivers underway. Looks as though apart from the 21 and also the 32 of Taylor Lane hitting strife, everyone is away cleanly.
Yep, they certainly are. Timo Hayden tucked in here, 4th place for him at the moment, currently in the championship lead of the GT4 Pro class, and would you believe it, with 5 points over his nearest rival, he's got the biggest lead. That doesn't sound like very much at all, but it's still early, I suppose, with regards to this championship, and just a couple of minutes gone in this race. Still Matt Loveridge leading the way and heading the field around on this opening lap in GT4. We've had a couple of pit stops, I'm afraid, immediately from some of the drivers. Taylor Lane has already been into the pit lane once and is back out again. And unfortunately, Ben Gregory's right at the back of the field in LMP3 as well. He's going to have a long road to recovery, I'm afraid. So's Mert Menderes and Petter Herschel, actually, who are both down on the pit lane. Meanwhile, Mats Kjotsen is up to the lead of LMP3, and we watch a side-by-side battle as they go down the hill here through turn 6 and 7 and into turn 8 as well, and they'll sort themselves out for this corner indeed. But a chaotic start somewhat in LMP3 by the looks of it, as 3 of the drivers at least plummet through the order.
Yeah, Mert Menderes has been down onto the pit lane in the 55, one of your AM Championship contenders. Petter Herschel, as you say, hitting strife. He hasn't come out of his pit box just yet. Replay up on your screen. This is what happened to the 55 of Mert Menderes into the final corner, down the inside and round with some contact. Not sure.
Here's the problem.
Yeah, that's the problem, and that was Petter Herschel who got caught up in that one. Both of them losing their front ends, and that is going to be a long recovery for the 55 and the 77 as Petter has finally left his pit box.
Yeah, that wasn't nice, that. As they went through the final corner. That was a pretty big hit through turn 15 there. And as you say, especially disappointing for Petter Herschel. He's in the championship league coming into today. Now, I know drop rounds and everything, that does mean that things are a little bit ambiguous, if you want to put it like that, at this stage in the season. However, it does still mean that races are important, and Herschel will likely lose the lead of the championship as a result of this. Meanwhile, excuse me, this is a replay of Matt Farquhar through the middle sector, and he's gone around for a spin. Looked like he was on that curb on the way towards turn 8. Yeah,
that does look like was what unsettled Matt Farquhar's car and sent him around in the gravel. Very lucky not to end up in the tyre barrier there, but of course quite a lot of runoff through that long right-hand section. Lance Stroll having a large crash there in 2020 during the Grand Prix that was held here. Back to the front of the GT4 Pro field, and actually as they complete their second lap, on both laps the leader or one of the front runners in the class, Ewan, have had slowdowns. It looks as though Adam Isaacson was the first to be bitten on the opening lap, and now Matt Loveridge has fallen down the order, and he has fallen down to third position. He was defending off Michael Pedersen. You saw it on your screens. Replay for Evan Natafas in the 164. Looks as though one of the Nomad LMP3s behind. Gaxella ahead. Gaxella has been down onto the pit lane. So the 164, another car in strife in the opening minutes of this race.
Yeah, that's not good news at all. I'm afraid there for those two. But as you say, we have had a lead change in GT4 Pro. That's pretty much the only one we've had in all four classes so far, but it is early. Thomas Marks Burgess is leading the way. Matt Loveridge is back a few places, I'm afraid, and Adam Isaacson very much the same, so they're running pretty much together again now, just not in the positions they probably would have liked to at least retained over the course of the opening laps. Back to LMP3 again, and Matt Caruana, who's making his way through the order, I've got to say here, up to third place now in the field. That was Leo Bonneman getting through on Remy Fortin there on your screen, but I find it interesting with Caruana that he's able to race better sometimes than he qualifies, but this is an important day for him as well. He's involved there in the championship battle. Unfortunately, Adam State not really around today, so don't know what's going to happen to him in the championship, but it is important for those front three to fight with one another and gain points on one another, and Caruana, you would say, definitely had the pressure on him after qualifying, which didn't quite go as well for him as it did for the other two who share the front row.
Yeah, Matt Caruana, we have seen incredibly strong in race pace, has been strong in qualifying, obviously not quite getting the pace out of the car he needed today as we ride a war with Adam Isaacson down the inside of Michael Pedersen down into turn number 1, and the 78 gets past the 97. Pedersen looking to try and get back on the exit of the corner, but not possible. Adam Isaacson shuts the door and he's trying to recover himself after that lap 1 slowdown, which has dropped him back into the pack. Doesn't want to lose too much time on Matt Loveridge, of course, as they will lose the draft down these long straight sections, which is going to be very important for these cars, not only for saving fuel but for keeping up with others. And that's something I'm surprised we haven't really seen yet, is Thomas Marks Burgess and Timo Hayden haven't got away at the head of this field. But going back to the LMP3 Championship, as you say, yes, Adam State not here. From memory, I don't think he's had a terrible result. I think he's had a few sort of top 5s, maybe not on the podium. So I think this will definitely become a drop score, and the score that he will inherit that was previously dropped shouldn't be too bad, so may not affect the championship that much. But an important day for Matt Caruana, because his drop scores are going to be important, because he has had some lower performing rounds. He does need to perform well here, but with Nathan Moore and Christophe Herbigno at the head of the field currently, that is currently going to be tricky.
Adam State has finished in the top 5 every round, by the way, so there you go. He will get a decent score as a result. That's the kind of thing with the drop rounds, isn't it? It sort of saves you a little bit in these situations, because effectively, no matter what happens today, no matter what happens any day, in fact, because he's not the only one, admittedly, I think Nathan Moore and Christophe Herbigno both have top 5s to fall back on as well. Effectively, they come into every race thinking, I've got a guaranteed top 5. So, in some ways, they can almost go all out on a race win, if you like, and try and get all of the points they possibly can from today, because they think, well, if it goes disastrously wrong, at least for these next 2 rounds, doesn't apply to the final one, of course, but for these next 2 rounds, they can think, well, I've got a really good bank of results to fall back on here. I might as well go for a win or that position in the last few moments, and in the end, in a sort of weird reverse way, in these final couple of rounds anyway, it's sort of going to encourage these guys to maybe take a risk they wouldn't otherwise make.
And that's a very important thing to note as well, because if you have had a bit of a tough opening sort of portion to this championship, where you don't have the luxury of relying on 2 drop rounds, maybe you've got 1, but again, we've still got 2 more rounds that are going to count for the we've got 1 more round after this that's going to account for the drop rounds. So you kind of don't want to use it up to date, because then that puts the pressure on for 2 weeks' time, and the drivers will be thinking about that. So, as you say, the likes of Adam State, who has had a top 5 in every round so far, not so much pressure there. Obviously today he's going to drop to a 0 point, but actually that's going to bring a good point scoring finish back in you, and that could actually help him in the championship, especially if one of our front runners has a bad day today. Of course, there's still a long way to go in this race. We're not even 10 minutes in, so a lot can still happen. And this is something these drivers have to think about.
And something has just happened here to Dan Blackwell, I'm afraid, in LMP3 AM. He's making his debut here today, of course. It's just going to be a bit of a run out to the end of the season for him. We're not going to be talking about points or anything with as far as he's concerned, but it will be about race wins and good results. Well, it's going to be a bit more difficult to get a good result if he's off the pace like he is at the moment. Now, I'm not sure what's happened, but we're about to find out, and maybe his continuing lack of speed is due to a lack of bodywork. So where it is, it's another spin through turn 3. He's tried to lock up the tyres in time to save himself from the wall. He's not been able to do that. Unfortunately, it's another one to add to the already very growing list of drivers who have gone off at turn 3.
Incredibly unlucky for Dan Blackwell there, just losing the rear end a little bit too zealous on the power coming out of the chicane and finding a tyre barrier 3 wide down into turn number 1 as your LMP3 leaders start to head through traffic. This is Leo Bonneman and Remy Fortin, who've been fighting since the start. Remy's starting in 3rd and he's actually dropped 2 positions, but Leo is up 2 after starting in P number 6 as they head behind Ashley Finch. Very close, potentially some contact there, and Leo Bonneman nearly losing the rear end out of the chicane as they head it down into 4 and 5.
Yeah, that's good racing between them, and now they're really going to be in the thick of traffic here, really. Down the hill they'll go into turn 6 and 7. On board with Fortin here, just in the slightly dirty air. Let's look at the track conditions. It's middle of the day stuff, but not too warm actually, considering the time of year. Round the outside of one GT4 for one and up the inside for another. That's going to give Fortin a compromise line into the next corner, and so will lose a little bit of time. He'll need a couple of corners to catch back up again, but that's going to be accelerated by the fact there's a GT4 right in front of his rival, and he'll get through a lot more easily. There's a perfect example in 10 seconds or so of the give and take in traffic, and it's got them exactly back to where they were before.
Yeah, through 8 and 9 through the long right-hander. Leo Bonneman having a bit more of an advantage, being able to take the natural racing line because Richard Simness will stay in the middle of the track, but Remy Fortin not quite expecting that. He's gained it all back again, and they're going to go side by side into the final corner. There's some traffic ahead that could play into this, and it is indeed, because Leo Bonneman is going to get held up. This is going to give Remy Fortin the run off the corner. No, they're going to make contact, and Leo Bonneman has lost his front end. He's not going to come down onto the pit lane though. This is going to allow Julien Plumet to make his way through, and I think that was, these two are fighting hard in the traffic. I don't think enough room was left between them. We're going to see 3-4 wide, almost more contact. Remy Fortin using the GT4 traffic to box in Julien Plumet to make sure he can't do anything, and Julien Plumet goes around. I think there was maybe a little bit of contact with the GT4 car ahead, and that has allowed the 31 has lost the grip and gone around and dropped right back down to 9th.
He almost seemed to surprise himself there, did Julien Plumet, by following one of the GT4s, and was surprised by the fact they were having to brake earlier than needed, but that was all very bizarre. Leo Bonneman with no front wing here is struggling for front end downfalls, I would have thought here now, so Remy Fortin is going to get through fairly easily, although it doesn't seem to be holding Bonneman back horrifically. It was just a lot of clumsy contact through that final corner, and it's given us this situation now. It's quite remarkable really, as Nathan Moore and Christophe Hermignaud have both been passed by Matt Caruana. What has gone on here between the leaders? Because while we've been watching this battle for 4th place, it's all been going on up front, and Matt Caruana's suddenly leading.
Matt Caruana, yes indeed, he's got a half a second lead. You can see it here. Nathan Moore and Christophe Hermignaud both dropped back, so whether Matt has been able to do something in the traffic, we aren't too sure at the minute, but I can expect Nathan Moore and Christophe Hermignaud to put on a fight. Nathan might be a little bit more calculated. Christophe, we've seen incredibly aggressive all season long. This is replay. This is riding on board with the driver of... This is indeed Matt Caruana going on Nathan Moore, so he's obviously been able to get past Christophe Hermignaud earlier on into the lap, into the 89 sweeper. Up the inside goes Caruana. Moore doesn't really have much to answer here. If you're on the outside, I think you're going to lose the time because you're on the longer line, but Moore hanging it around the outside so far into the braking zone for turn number 10, and Caruana with the inside line, and I think that was always going to be the stronger one there, Ewan, but that's actually allowed Christophe Hermignaud to come back. I noticed coming into 8 and 9 he was a long way back, and that side-by-side manoeuvre has allowed him to close right back up to this battle.
Well, that's aggression from Matt Caruana that I wasn't really expecting at this time in the race, especially with traffic around, but There you go. That was a good pass in the end, and Matt Caruana is up into the lead. Just to explain the points gaps between these positions, it's 40 for a win in each of the classes, same for all classes, 37 for second and 35 for third. There's 2-point gaps after that for quite a while, so especially for the amount of drivers and teams that we've got in each class here today. So that's worth bearing in mind when you think about Caruana down the bottom of the 4 at the top of the championship in in LMP3 Pro at the moment. Julien Plumet is getting through on Nikolai Loft at the moment, I think, and there's all sorts of changing going on back there in LMP3 now as well. Maybe traffic induced, or maybe they're past these guys by now, but either way they're swapping positions a bit further back from those leaders in these last couple of moments, and that's maybe what we're going to get from this race, to be honest, in terms of action all at once and a lot going on all at once, and then calmness once they get through the traffic, because I noticed that that's sort of washed over the leaders, if you like. Now they're clear of GT4 traffic and they're in clean air.
It does seem to be traffic is quite a large influencer in this race today, and I think that's going to be an interesting one for these drivers to really understand the dynamic of, as we can see a bit more 3-4 wide as Adam Isaacson's in the wall. There was contact there. I think that was with the 77. Not 100% sure. We will confirm for you in a moment, but that was Adam Isaacson in the wall. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't have damage from that. This is going back to the battle for P number, I'm just trying to see the number on the side of the car here. This is the 31, so this is Julien Plumet leading Nikolai Loft and Joost Boemeister in the 48. He's currently a second position in your LMP3 AM class as Mads Kielsen has been able to get away. Replay up on the screen. This is what happened to... This is not Adam Isaacson, this is Julien Plumet.
Yeah, this is what happened a few laps ago with the near 4 wide moment that they just diverted themselves from. So Plumet gets boxed in here and then just sort of surprises himself almost with the early braking of the GT4s. Maybe lost bearings as to quite where they were on the straight, but even so, this is what happened to Petter. He's not had another crash, has he? Championship leader in LMP3 AM has not had a good day, if that's the case. He's on the outside here and he's just squeaking through, so thankfully he got away with it on that occasion, but he is quite a long way back for a championship leader. Leo Bonneman's back to pit lane and might be done for the day now. Wonder what Adam Isaacson's going to do now as well. Surely he'll have to pit there. That was a big enough hit, I would have thought, for him to have got damage, you would have thought.
I'm not sure. We're quite close to the pit window, so I think if he can get it to the start of the pit window, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Adam Isaacson try and do this on 2 stops. It is possible. An hour and 12 minutes to go. The pit window will open shortly. We've seen people go for the early stop, and Adam Isaacson might have to take that option. He didn't have that option at Barcelona in the first round when he hit the sausage dog curb in the final sector, but may have the option here. It was a hard hit, but he may also get lucky. That's your GT4 Pro second position. Timo Hayden having some issues with the lap traffic. That's the 113 of Benjamin Gregory going through. I think the little weave from Gregory was an apology for that one, taking responsibility quite quickly. But Adam Isaacson is down onto the pit lane.
See, I think the pit window is going to be quite wide again here. We need to calibrate ourselves back out of Daytona land, where it was a very narrow window. I think we're going to get a bigger window to play with here at Mugello, and even now is fine for making it on one more stop. Now, I hope that we do see what happened to him again, and here it is on the outside, one of the LMP3s here. You've got to always remember you are... Well, that's an awkward moment in itself, to be fair, 4 wide. But you've got to always remember, when you're alongside someone, just because you've got your nose ahead doesn't mean you can weave around where you want. And just because you're the faster class as well, you can't weave around where you want. You've got to look at left and right and see where everybody is around you. And Adam Isaacson has bared the full brunt of that impact, I'm afraid. Clearly, it's given him enough damage to suffice a pit stop immediately 1 lap later.
Yeah, he's coming in 17 seconds. He's back out again, currently heading himself through turns 2 and 3. I think Matt Loveridge may be moving through the traffic there. I'm not quite sure who the LMP3 was going through the middle. Didn't quite catch that, but it looks as though that was a reaction to Matt Loveridge coming left across the circuit, maybe, you know, avoiding traffic himself. And you probably can go 4 wide down this straight, Ewan. It's quite a wide main straight, but you have to be sensible about it. And I think when the LMP3 went for the move, the gap was there. I think it was a genuine move, and Adam Isaacson doing a very sensible thing, getting as far left as he can. I think nobody expected Matt Loveridge to make the move that he did, but there's potentially a bit of unpredictable prototype traffic coming through. I'm sure that race control will review that one, as it is quite a significant incident. But Adam Isaacson now back out onto the racing surface. Doesn't look like he's cost him too much time, so he should still be in this with an hour and 10 minutes to go. He just needs to go out and set some consistent lap times, as Matt Loveridge now down the inside of the 96 of Timo Hayden, up back into second position. Thomas Mark Burgess getting away by 3 seconds at the front of the pro field, but Hayden looking around the outside into turn number 2, not quite going to get it done, as Matt Loveridge solidifies the position and his recovery drive continues.
Yeah, that gap has seemingly opened up under everyone's nose here a little bit. I'm sure the drivers have noticed, but it's Thomas Mark Burgess leading by quite some distance here. Matt Loveridge back to second now. He's fighting through quite well ever since he dropped back very early on from that leading position, and it's Impulse Racing all over this race now. Well, all of a sudden 3 in the top 4, including the leader. You just wonder how they're going to play it between each other now, to be honest with you, because they've got so many of their drivers in contention for a win, but only 2 of them in contention for a title here this season. Now, Thomas Mark Burgess is only 25 points off the lead of Timo Hayden, so to be fair, I suppose he's not out of it yet, but is it not more important to get another one of his teammates into the winning position? Well, will they be thinking about that kind of thing this early on? With 3 rounds to go, we are getting to that stage in the season now. It's a very interesting call that they're going to have to make, but one that they'll hope that they even get the choice, to be honest, because Matt Loveridge is one of those contenders. You're not going to hand the win over to him by any means, so we will see what happens there for Impulse, but for now, Matt Loveridge is doing his best to disrupt them in GT4 Pro.
I think when you look at how the Impulse Racing competitors are doing in the championship currently, of course, Matt Loveridge up there in second position at the moment, Sasha Anglesey down in fourth, and Adam Isaacson having some issues so far in this race. Of course, 40, an hour and 8 minutes to go. There's still a chance he can come back, and I believe he can, because Isaacson has been very strong all season long, especially where a recovery drive is involved. So I think letting Thomas Mark Burgess get away at the front of the field isn't the worst thing in the world if he's got the pace, which I think he does, because he has pulled away just a little bit from Matt Loveridge over the course of the last lap or so. I think it's okay. I think they can do it. Obviously, I don't think we're going to see the strategy calls from Impulse that we've seen so far this season, where they've been very risk averse in trying something, risk sort of facing and trying things in the strategy, Ewan, to pick up some time, and that's of course was what gifted Timo Hayden wins early on in the season. I'm not sure whether we're going to see too much of that. I think the drivers are more out there on their own. I can see Timo Hayden and Sasha Anglesey working together more, but I feel like Thomas Mark Burgess here just trying to get away and build a gap. Of course, we've seen it before, 3.5 seconds, it's enough, and if you can hold the pace, then Matt Loveridge isn't going to bring that down, even over the course of what's left in this race.
Yeah, maybe it's a good idea for someone to take those top points away, because as I say, the gap between first and second is 3, the other gaps are just 2, so if you are going to be on the losing end, you'd rather Matt Loveridge wasn't winning, I suppose, in that situation. And always the thing levelled at me whenever I say team orders is that team always comes back and tells me to never do them, which is fair enough, but we'll see just how they play it this time round. This is the battle for second in GT4 AM. Haven't really seen them much so far today, but that's because Josh Boot has raced out to the biggest lead that we've got in any of our classes, or it was before Youth Boymaster decided to come in LMP3 AM, as he fairly often does, to oh no, I've just realised I said his name, I've done it wrong. He messaged us before the last race telling us we've been butchering his name, and I've just gone back to the old way of getting it wrong. I'll try again later. Mads Kelsen is leading though by some distance now though, but it is, as I say, as a result of pit stops beginning only 20 or so minutes in, and that suggests to me, Jack, as I suspected earlier on actually, that we were indeed going to see a wider pit window today, and the early evidence suggests that we do.
And I think with the gaps that we've seen opening up over the course of this race so far, I'm not really surprised, as Christophe Herbigno, a lovely move on the brakes down the inside of Nathan Moore, just had the overspeed coming down into the first corner, nice and simple move, and up he goes into second position. Maybe Christophe thinking he's got a little bit more pace to try and catch Matt Caruana, who has got away now by about 2.5 seconds at the head of the field. So yes, as you say, I think with the gaps opening up, I think drivers are going to be a bit more open to running on their own and trying things with strategy. It wasn't something I think we saw as much of at Daytona due to how strong the draft is there. You do want drafting partners, you want to be running in a group. If not, you can lose a significant amount of time around that circuit. Whereas here, it's much more about the driver really extracting the pace from the car and not overdriving it, not overworking it. That's going to be an incredibly important one. Obviously, where these drivers are going to be taking tyres in this race, as tyres are possibly almost certainly going to take longer than the full tank of fuel that they're going to need to run a full stint for the next run to the pit stops. So seeing people do things slightly differently on the strategy, I'm not surprised. Of course, some people have been able to make it work very well. Joost Boemeister proving that in the very early rounds of this championship, Ewan, and I think again onto a strategy where he feels he can really extract the most out of that number 48 machine.
Yeah, he so often employs it, and it's won races as a result as well. So we'll see what the outcome is in LMP3 AM today as well. In Pro, Matt Caruana's racing up to a lead now of 2.8 seconds. Nathan Moore has lost second place now as well to Christophe Herbigno, who is now in that runners-up position, and those three are getting an increasing margin over the rest of the field. There is the battle for second place going on as Matt Loveridge tries to hang on from the championship leader Timo Hayden. Less pit stops back here, by the way, less early pit stops back here. Michael Pedersen has opened that up, as did Adam Isaacson, although he was kind of forced to earlier on in the day. Surely we can't be too far away from seeing the majority of those stops already now, just half an hour into this hour-and-a-half race. Round 6 of the World Sportscar Championship in Season 2. One of the LMP3s going right round the outside of this battle indeed, and not affecting them seemingly at all as they continue. Might just be that this race is settling down just slightly now, settling into somewhat of a rhythm. Traffic no longer coming in clumps, but instead more as a constant, but not quite so manic when you do get it. And same goes when you're being lapped, same idea as well. There goes second and third, for example. It feels somewhat like everybody is just half waiting for the pit stop to happen, really, and then see where we are just on the other side of these in about 10 minutes' time.
And of course, with the gaps opening up in the GT4 field, and the same with the LMP3 field, as you say, it will start to allow the traffic to be a bit more constant. We've still, I would say, have half the circuit kind of empty of major traffic, but that will continue to fan out over the course of this race. And the drivers, by the end of it, it's kind of the similar progression that we've seen in endurance races. Matt Loveridge now decides to come down onto the pit lane after 14 laps for his first pit stop. So Loveridge, as we have seen time and time again this season, running a slightly different strategy to others, pitting a bit early, trying to get himself a bit of clean air. It's probably not the worst decision around here from what we've seen with how this race is playing out. So that traffic will start to become a little bit more consistent. As I was saying, it's much more, I think this is going to be a case of much more how we see traffic play out over the first 2 hours of endurance race, say, Ewan, where everyone's kind of clumped together in the opening half an hour. You know, it's kind of, you have a run through traffic, then you get 5 or 6 laps clear and a prototype, then the traffic will start again. And then after a couple of hours, it kind of sort of transitions more into a consistent traffic pattern where you're always going to be overtaking less cars a lap, but you're always having to think about traffic as opposed to it being one clump over the course of a lap. Yeah,
it gets a lot more consistently spread out, if you like, although that does happen fairly quickly anyway, because people are going off the road and re-emerging. For example, there is a fast repair in this series that no doubt Adam Isaacson will have had to use earlier on today. Just helps keep people in the race a little bit better. And so far, even at a tricky circuit like Mugello, we've seen just 5 retirements from the race, which is maybe less than some would have expected after half an hour, although number still relatively large, all things considered. The lead now for Thomas March Burgess, though, is 4.5 seconds. This is only getting larger by the minute here. as through they go in the chicane now. The Impulse Racing driver continuing to race away from those who are still chasing him with an hour to go in this one. So that is interesting to note, and I wonder whether he can take this one all the way, because he hasn't won a race yet this season. The four in front of him in the championship have all won at least once. Timo Hayden has won twice, and will Thomas Max Burgess add his name to that list? Because fifth different winner in 6 different races would be rather impressive. Still got a long way to go until he'll be dreaming of that kind of thing, though.
Yeah, as you say, a long way to go in this race yet for Thomas Marks Burgess to round out a win. Of course, an hour left in this race, but his pace has been excellent last time around, about just under half a second quicker than Timo Hayden. So clearly finding something in that Impulse Mercedes that his teammates have not been able to just yet, but I'm sure they will be able to extract the pace out of that Mercedes over the course of this race, as that lead is now stretched out to 5 seconds at the head of the GT4 field. So yeah, Thomas Marks Burgess really putting himself into a good position. I think it is really going to be a race that rewards getting out and having a bit of clean air as well. When you're in the slower cars, it's not always the worst thing. It kind of means you can manage the traffic at your own pace in the way you would like to. When you've got others around you, you sometimes have to play a bit defensive and then deal with the traffic. So Thomas Marks Burgess having a bit of clean air is going to help him a lot in the traffic. But as the pit stops start as well, the traffic is going to become a little bit more unpredictable. The LMP3 pit stops have began. Obviously, Joost Boemister being the first to come down onto the pit lane at 4 laps ago. We have now had some pit stops starting to come through, and same in GT4. So in fact, actually, there's so many pit stops happening, Ewan, that Josh Boot is now running 4th overall in GT4, and his pace is excellent, only running sort of a couple of tenths off the likes of Timo Hayden and Sasha Anglesey.
Well, yeah, and to be fair, not that many of the pros have pitted. Quite admittedly a few, but there's still 8 out there who have yet to pit so far, and Josh Boot's ahead of more than half of those, so he is doing a very good job indeed. He's got new driver Adam Watson right behind. Kim-Andre Bjorklund is there as well. Then it's Jack Osborne, the first chasing AM driver, so that's a good 8 seconds or so for the leader. There's Matt Loveridge back out onto the circuit again, and this is interesting. His pit stop was 9 seconds longer, and he's come out behind Isaacson. Now, the problem for the SimRC driver is the fact that he's taken his short stop already, and his short stop has not really been amplified in the way that he would have wanted, because he's come in with fuel still on board. He will have put more fuel in, so he's still heavy, if you see what I mean. He probably would have filled all the way, considering there was an hour and 12 remaining. It was nearly a quarter of an hour ago that he was in the pit lane already. So while Isaacson will be lighter on fuel for the rest of this stint once the others come out, the problem we've got is that he might be towing them around, as he is doing right now, to Matt Loveridge, but also he's not quite maximised his short stop as the others are surely going to a little bit later on.
No, and I think that's going to be an interesting dynamic here for Adam Isaacson, obviously showing he's in a good position currently, coming out around the driver of Matt Loveridge. Obviously, Loveridge pitting from 2nd position, one of the LMP3 machines trying to make his way through, a little bit aggressive in the traffic. Adam Isaacson not giving any room to the 74 of Mac McFarquhar. So Adam Isaacson now, obviously, that Mac getting past, saying, I'm not sure if that was a thank you or maybe an aggressive weave to kind of say, what are you doing? But the LMP3 traffic is clear. But Adam Isaacson, yeah, I think he's in a tricky position here. I think if the pace is good, it could solidify him a good top 5 points finish, which I think would probably just about hold on. Whether it would become a drop score or not, I don't think it would. I think it would count today. I think he's had worse finishes than that. So that's going to be an interesting one here for Adam to think about in terms of the championship. Of course, at the moment, his thought is just going to be, let's get as best position as possibly can. Of course, the time loss from that incident on the main straight is going to be minimal. It's mostly going to be what's happened as he's lost the time, but Matt Loveridge has been able to get through. There was an LMP3 making their way through the traffic there. That was Menderes in the 55. A little bit of contact with Adam Isaacson, and Isaacson has now dropped behind the driver of Loveridge. Now, actually, that could help here, Ewan, because Loveridge can keep up a good pace. Isaacson can sit behind, save some fuel, and shorten that second stop, and try and mitigate as much as possible the effects that he's going to have from taking that short stop early.
Yeah, he's just got to make the best of what he's got right now, because this is for sure not an ideal situation, but how many races go 100% to plan. You know, it's one of those things that you've got to bounce back from. So he'll just do what he can as we cross over an hour to go in this race, but still plenty of drivers out on the circuit. It's not like Daytona a couple of weeks ago, if you joined us for that one. It was a very narrow pit window that day where I think people were maybe slightly nervous about making it at all. In the end, I don't remember anyone having particular problems, and the fuel loads that these guys are allowed to take on don't actually limit these guys too much in terms of not being able to make it. It's just that perfect balance between making everybody do 2 stops, but also having that flexibility as well to do the 2 pit stops almost when you want, but it's about trying to maximise those 2 pit stops as best as you can. Doing it the way Adam Isaacson did is not necessarily going to maximise them, particularly as Matt Loveridge there gets LMP3 diving down the inside. It's a great view when you're driving on board, isn't it, just how different these 2 cars are, not in terms of behaviour especially, because we can all see that, but in terms of speed difference, it's 15 seconds around here, and that is a fairly significant part of the lap time. You know, it's well over 1/7 of the LMP3's lap time that the GT4s are slower again, for example, and so that just shows you, and those onboards especially show you that yeah, we're talking about a serious pace difference in certain sections of this track.
I would say a lot of the pace difference for LMP3 comes through the corners. Of course, they have so much more grip than these GT4 machines. GT4 cars are actually surprisingly fast in a straight line. If you've ever done GT3, GT4 multi-class, say around the Nürburgring in the Nürburgring Endurance Series, you'll know that these GT4 cars are very quick, and it takes a little bit of time to get past them down the Dottinger Höhe. And I know the LMP3s are going to be having a similar issue coming down the main straight. We've seen it towards the end of the straight. The speed differential is not that much, but that onboard that we saw coming through the sort of earlier parts of the second sector really shows how much faster the LMP3s are through there because of the pure downforce that they have, as we see some LMP3 traffic getting through the GT4s. I believe that was Nicholas Skitz in the GT3 machine. Matt Caruana, Christophe Herbignaud from the top 3 have come down onto the pit lane. Nathan Moore has stayed out and inherited the race lead, and Remy Fortin has stayed out and inherited second place. So Matt Caruana has come down and stopped Ewan, stopped currently for over 30 seconds. In fact, an incredibly long stop for Caruana, potentially taking tyres, as Christophe Herbignaud has done his stop in 26.5 seconds. Caruana is still stationary.
Oh, it's not happened again, has it? Didn't he speed in round 1 or 2? And he dropped a long way back as a result of that. Maybe later than that, but Herbignaud's out way before. This is a long stop for Caruana.
This has got to be a penalty.
Yeah, something untoward's going on, certainly, because he would not be taking such a long stop voluntarily. It's now gone over 50 seconds on our timing screens. Eventually he'll make his way out onto the circuit, you'd hope, but it's over a minute now stationary in the box for a previous race leader of this race.
He's gone, he's retired. That is race over for Matt Caruana. He's just stopped. Wow. No explanation at all. I haven't seen anything happen to him. His pace was really good, so yeah, that's weird. Why has Matt decided to call it a day?
I don't know. Maybe something that can't be explained in the sim, but rather at home. But nevertheless, a situation you don't see very often at all. That'll leave Nathan Moore and Christophe Herbignaud to fight for the win, I would have thought. And Nathan Moore is about to put together another piece of that puzzle as he pulls into the pit lane now. Adam Hedgecock's leading in LMP3 AM because he hasn't pitted yet either. Jos Boymeister has stops in AM, of course, and he's trying to get out ahead of Mads Kjeldsen, but he's not been able to, despite going over 10 seconds shorter in the box. Looks like Kjeldsen's going to come out with the lead there. Who's going to come out with the lead in LMP3 Pro, as Christophe Herbignaud will be tearing his way down the front straight now. Will match his time up with Nathan Moore, whose stop is just 1 second longer there. Now, does that allow Herbignaud to get into the lead here as he tears down the straight? It's going to be very close. Herbignaud's going to be just ahead as Moore gets out of the pit lane. That must have been very close, and there it is. So that 1 second has probably prevented us from seeing a side-by-side race out of pit lane actually between those two, but it does mean that Moore likely put in just a little bit more, fuel into that car at the first stop.
Yeah, and obviously with Christoph Herbenier being up to speed at the end of the straight, that's going to have helped him get that 1.5 second advantage over Nathan Moore at the end of the pit cycle. But I think that extra second of fuel for Nathan Moore going to be important. Of course, he has run a lap longer than Herbenier, so maybe needed it because the tank was a bit emptier, but he's going to be able to go that little bit further on this next pit cycle. My timing screen just showing around 32 laps to go at the, or even less than that actually, because it's still looking at Matt Caruana. So, you know, we're looking at about 30 laps to go here, Ewan, in the last 50 minutes of this race. So Nathan Moore going that further lap, that's going to help his fuel strategy out a little bit more to be able to push it further into the race and take less on the second stop. So yes, he's lost a second here in the first round. I think he's going to get it back in the second.
I'm not sure, to be honest, which way this one's going to go. It's going to be an interesting one for sure, as we see GC4 Pro and Am start to change around now. Everybody's in the pit lane. Thomas Marks Burgess is going to be out first, although his lead is slashed. We've seen the Impulse drivers often take short stops, actually, and they may well have done here again. Matt Loveridge is third, with Adam Isaacson fourth. They all gain places, but it's well, I suppose he's not actually that much closer, is he, Hayden, to Thomas Marks Burgess compared to what he was before. In fact, they've done almost exactly the same length of stop in the box, but they were both about 7 seconds quicker than Loveridge, and this is what Impulse have started to do recently. I don't really know the explanation for it, but they haven't been doing badly in the races, so I guess it's working out for them. Impulse's first stops generally are a bit shorter, and it's clearly happened again here. The top two, anyway, lead by quite some distance. Sasha Engelsey does a pit stop very similar to Matt Loveridge. He's back to fifth.
So I would say that Adam Isaacson, Thomas Marks Burgess and Timo Hayden are all going to be on a similar strategy. They're all running similar pit stop times in the first pit stop. Obviously, of course, with Adam Isaacson coming in 10 laps before that of Thomas Marks Burgess, 11 before Timo Hayden. Matt Loveridge, Sasha Engelsey and Michael Pedersen are all on similar strategies. So it's interesting to see that Sasha Engelsey, he's broken ranks really here, Ewan, and taken his longest stop early on. Of course, he's lost, say, 8 seconds in the process. It's dropped him back to Michael Pedersen, but I think as long as he can keep Pedersen behind, keep up a good pace, it should be okay. He's obviously going to take his shorter stop later on in the race, and as I say that, I do believe that Sasha Engelsey might have got a slowdown. They're going to be side by side as they head into turn number 12. Some traffic may have influenced in this as well, but Michael Pedersen on the outside, he's going to have the inside. There's contact. No. Sasha Engelsey's around, he's in the wall, and Michael Pedersen getting his way through there. There wasn't a lot of room left on exit. Pedersen is still stopped. He's just got himself going again, but whatever strategy he was trying to do, I think, has just been completely ruined with that incident.
Yes, certainly. I always find it a little bit difficult to sympathise with someone who's meant to be giving space on the outside to another driver, fails to do enough, and then are the ones themselves to get spun around. Now, I apologise if that's a bit harsh, maybe, but I do find it difficult. Let's see what happened on this particular occasion to Sasha Engelsey, a championship contender, of course, in GT4 Pro, down into this hairpin. Does he just open the steering here, or does Michael Pedersen turn into him? That is what they call a 50-50 call, I would say, because I don't know which way that one's going to go, and I don't even know if Sasha Engelsey found the wall here, actually. We'll find out in a couple of moments. There you go. Yep, definitely did. Quite hard, actually, as well, by the looks of that. So that one's going to be tricky. Neither of them were. Pedersen wasn't pushed right to the left side of the road, which just made me feel he maybe could have given a bit more room, but Engelsey might have been opening the steering. That might be a difficult one to call.
I think looking at Anglesey's angle, really, that's something you've got to look at of the trajectory of the 3 car coming off the corner. I think Anglesey was really going for the racing line through there. I can also see what Michael Pedersen was trying to do. He was trying to set himself up for the fast left-right of 13-14, because you do want to be sort of roughly in the middle of the road off the exit of 12 in these GT4 cars to get the run through 13 and 14. So I think it's 50-50. I think it will go down as a racing incident. I think Anglesey opened up the steering, Pedersen squeezed, they made contact. I'm not really sure there's much more you can really say about that. Whether the accident would have happened if Pedersen had opened up the steering a little bit more, run it right out to the edge, I'm not sure. I think maybe Sasha Engelsey thinking that he was clear on the exit of the corner. at the end of the day, you'll never know without sitting down with the drivers, and that's sometimes why race control decides to investigate things like this after the race. Of course, in this series it will be done after the race, but series where they have live race control, sometimes you need to speak to both drivers, and they'll go and speak to them after the race to decide what's going to happen. But Sasha Anglesey, his championship charge is going to be sort of dented here. Maybe this one's going to be taken as a drop round and it's going to promote another score. Again, I think another driver who's had a pretty solid championship so far, Ewan, so not sure he should be too worried about using today as a drop score.
Yeah, exactly. Only 3 top 5s for him though, so he's going to have to give away a top 5, but he could regain that today, I suppose, and he does have other top 10s to fall back on, I suppose, so we'll see. Ben Gregory's unfortunately jumped into YouTube chat, and I say unfortunately because he was racing. He's now out, unfortunately, and joining the growing list of drivers now who are out of the race, growing to 8. Unfortunately, he says that he's had to pull off because his ISP was getting so bad, his new one indeed as well, so that's going to be a fairly grisly conversation whenever he decides to take that one on, so we'll not look forward to that probably, but hopefully he'll be back again for the remaining 2 rounds of the season with no problems. 8 drivers out though, Jack, including some pretty big ones here. Matt Caruano, as we've already talked about. Peter Herschel is officially out as the LMP3 AM Championship leader. So a pretty big day, all things considered, with regards to the championship. We always said it would be, but that's a fairly high number of those who are out of this race. Around 20%, a little bit more than 20% of this field now retired.
Yeah, it's really quite a high attrition rate. It's not something we've seen so far this season. We've seen a lot of drivers hit strife, but they'll carry on. Obviously, towards the end of the season, maybe having a slightly different approach, or maybe the day's word, or the accidents and the incidents were bad enough to warrant a retirement. We just do not know. Of course, with Ben Gregory, of course, it's unfortunate for him. He's had a troubled season, illness at the start of it, and then today technical issues with his ISP. So hopefully Ben can get that sorted for 2 weeks' time and come back strong for the final 2 rounds. So, but yeah, some retirements do seem to be a bit puzzling. Why Matt Caruana stopped, we're yet to find out. Of course, Leo Bonneman having some damage early on and looking like he had technical issues as well, Ewan. So another front runner being caught out by technical issues. So it's a very interesting one. It's maybe today is the day of technical issues as we enter the second half of this race.
Well, let's try not to dub it as that, but we'll see. Down the hill for a few more of the leading drivers in GT4 Pro. These are the 2 chasers to the front of the GT4 Pro field. Matt Loveridge and Adam Isaacson on your screen at the moment in that order, trying to chase down the Impulse Racing pair of Thomas March Burgess, who leads, and Thibaut Hayden, who is in second. Based on what we saw for pit stops first time round, Adam Isaacson came in with 1 hour and 12 to go, so if he makes it to 36 minutes to go, then he's absolutely fine. I imagine he will be, and I imagine that's sort of where our final pit stops really begin, or where they can begin. Whether anyone will decide to go quite so early is a bit of a mystery. Meanwhile, the overall lead is down below half a second for the first time in a while. Christophe Herbinot is under a bit of pressure from Nathan Moore as the Belgian tries to extend his championship lead further over the Brit from a measly 2 points to what it is at the moment, to maybe something a little bit more substantial. But don't forget that Nathan Moore gained half of that margin back by getting the pole position. It's a crucial day, as I keep repeating, and if either of them are able to take a race win here, it'll be a big step forward, even though the gap is likely to be very small even after today.
Yeah, I think this is a battle we're going to see sort of rage on all throughout this race, whether Nathan Moore's been able to make up a bit of advantage in traffic or it is on pure pace, not sure. Looking at the last lap times, they were very similar, so I would say traffic has potentially played into the hands of Nathan Moore in this one. But Christophe Herbinot, as you say, having his championship advantage, half in qualifying by Nathan Moore getting the pole. It's down to a single point. Now, if this was the last round of the championship, of course, this would be incredibly important with 2 more rounds to go. It is going to be interesting to see. Of course, if Nathan Moore can get a good result here, it might drop off a slightly worse result that he's had earlier on in the season, and push him up and actually sort of squash that championship gap even more. So the drop weeks, of course, are still very important, but actually getting the track position today as well, something which these drivers will be concerned about as they head out of turn 15 to start another lap of the race. It's going to be, according to my time, it's going to be 25 to go as they cross the line this time around, with 41.25 minutes left on the clock, heading past some lap traffic. That is the number 10 car of Jack Wilkins in the AM class, a driver we haven't spoken too much about today. Doesn't look like Nathan Moore's putting on too much of a challenge at the moment. You are maybe trying to play the strategic game here as they head towards the second round of pit stops and look to overtake Christoph in the pit stops.
Yeah, and he might well do as well. I mean, it depends what we think really here between these two, because 26.4 seconds in the box was Christoph Herbigno's time. 27.5 was Nathan Moore's time. Now, was that lining yourself up in the box correctly? Was that getting everything done quickly enough and getting underway again quickly enough for Nathan Moore versus Christoph Herbigno? Or was that Moore putting a single second more fuel on board into his car, thus giving him the advantage for the final part of this race? It really depends on which side of the coin you get on, because if it's the second one, then I guess stay here, sit tight is the way to go. But if you believe that you've got a very similar, if not identical, stop to the driver in front of you coming up, I don't really see the point in waiting for those pit stops to transpire. You're effectively in a battle, and you might as well try and take that lead.
I do think Nathan Moore is going to be a slightly faster stop on this second round of pit stops. Of course, he went a lap longer on the first stint. He's currently on his 7th lap of his stint compared to Christoph's 8th, so that will play into his hands, of course, with the fuel burn being reasonably high in these LMP3 machines, being a big Nissan V8 engine in the back of them. So that's something to think about. Of course, if he's going to be saving fuel, he's just going to need less to get to the end. So, you know, if the pace is there and he's not going to drop off the back, maybe it is a case of knowing that, yes, I can, you know, they can pit at the same time, and out ahead comes Nathan Moore because he has had that slightly shorter stop. Of course, as you say, they need to be able to hit the marks properly, get down onto the pit lane as Dan Blackwell goes for a spin through the final corner. His debut race going from bad to worse in the LMP3 AM class, and the 140 machine has rejoined the circuit. A nice safe rejoin there on the left-hand side, on the inside, and in a clear piece of traffic, Ewan. But yeah, back to the lead of the LMP3 race, and I think it's going to be an interesting one to see how this plays out. I think at the moment, I would say that the advantage is in Nathan Moore's hand. If he can keep up the pace and stay within a good gap, then I think he's the one who's currently on top come the end of the second round of pit stops. If Christoph Herbigno can pull enough of a gap to cover off what I think he is going to be his slightly longer second stop, then I think Herbigno is potentially in the better position. Of course, we've seen traffic just play into the hands of Herbigno through 8 and 9, but the WSR Esports butt kicker Aston Martin of Ashley Finch now playing back into the hands of Nathan Moore and making it very easy for the 88 to get past Dan to turn number 12. It was definitely the opposite for Christoph Herbigno through 10 and 11.
Well, I'm just not that confident that Moore is actually going to have that second back again, if you like, from this next pit stop, to be honest. We'll wait and see what happens, of course, but I'm not particularly confident in it myself for now. We'll wait and see, though, because there's probably quite a long way to go until we get those pit stops. 38 minutes remaining in the race. We're seconds away, really, laps indeed, away from the critical lap, if you like, from where you can pit and get home. And so that goes for both classes, by the way, especially GT4, which did actually go a little bit further than LMP3 first time round anyway. So we're probably at that stage already. But the disadvantage, of course, is if you're going now, you're filling yourself up likely from already having a little bit of fuel on board, especially if you took one of those longer stops first time round. You're filling your way all the way back up to the top again, and effectively you've got a very heavy car for what is most of the day. You want to try and keep your car as light as possible all throughout the day, in my mind, and one way of doing that is, of course, by taking your short pit stop either first or second time round. Lots of people choose second time round because it does generally keep yourself lower right towards the end of the day, but it's interesting to see when everybody does decide to do it, especially in LMP3 AM, for example. Joost Boomeister has done it a couple of times in that class and got wins, and could be his day to take over the lead, to be honest, in that championship. There's a lot of people vying for it, with Peter Herschel out of the picture. Mac Farquhar had a off earlier. He's still running 4th, so still doing okay. But Magic Kjelsen and Joost Boomeister are 1 and 2 at the moment, and they're 7 and 8 points back. We could see a complete reversal of fortunes there in that second of the top classes.
Yeah, and of course for Peter Petterschau, this is going to become his drop round for, well, one of his drop rounds for the championship, being a 0 score. And Mac McFarquhar, again, another driver who hasn't been running to the pace and the performance that we have seen from him so far this season. So yes, Mats Kjelsen and Joost Boomeister really putting themselves into a position to really advantage on this this championship from this round, get themselves up towards the top. Sasha Anglesey in the GT4 Pro field, you just saw it in the background on your screens. He's down onto the pit lane, Ewan. Only 7 laps on that stint, with 21 laps to go for the LMP3 leaders. I think it's going to be very difficult for him to get to the end here on 1 tank of fuel. I don't think it's impossible. There may be some fuel saving needed, but I wonder whether Anglesey having some damage from that contact down at the exit of 12.
Now, I think he'll be fine, to be honest with you. I think he will make it. Boomeister is also in. He has definitely calculated that strategy, and he is in now. So I think these guys are absolutely fine. But I think you're right. Anglesey sort of realigned his thinking with that incident. Now, whether he got damage or not, well, it's difficult to know. And I don't think it especially matters, because the point still stands, really, that he can still sort of mitigate his losses, if you like, by pitting in at this stage in the day, and that's exactly what he's done. Peter Herschel has jumped into YouTube chat, by the way, telling us that he had no pace anyway. Well, I think that's slightly harsh, but there you go. Said he got taken out by a bad rejoin and had to pull out of the race. Will be back stronger in Fuji. Well, not sure if rejoin is the word I'd use for it, but certainly couldn't have done a lot about the incident at the final corner. There was a lot going on early on, and a lot of damage, unfortunately, to both of those cars involved, and it was a shame to see for sure. So look forward to seeing Peter Herschel back at Fuji as the 2 leaders go back down to the first corner again. And if you noticed there while I was talking about that, the GT4 driver Michael Pedersen flashing his lights furiously at Christophe Herbigno as the sort of aggression is not stacked up, but just ratcheted up slightly in these LMP3 drivers, especially when you're fighting for a win. All of a sudden your patience with traffic does decline somewhat.
Yeah, maybe where the Christophe Herbigno, sort of knowing that Nathan Moore is behind him and needs to keep the pace up here to make sure that he's got the advantage he needs come the second round of pit stops. Michael Pedersen also coming down onto the pit lane, so potentially also wanting the outside off of 15 to be able to get into the pit lane cleanly, to not lose too much time. I don't think that has been the case, and he's now heading back out onto the pit lane. He'll be exiting in just a few moments time. In fact, he's now out 55 seconds spent down on pit lane. So as you can see here, Nathan Moore actually getting a little bit stuck in traffic behind Matt Loveridge in the 71. Loveridge still going on this second fuel run of the race, and with 33 minutes remaining, I think he's going to be one of the first cars to come down onto the pit lane, and always a pit stop. But in fact, for him is going to be the Aston Martin behind him of Adam Isaacson. Now, I'm very interested to see where Isaacson comes out. Of course, a shorter first pit stop, so he's going to need a longer pit stop here to get to the end, Ewan. But as well, we're in a position where he's currently in the battle for 3rd position in the race, but he's going to drop back as actually Thomas Marks Burgess from the lead of the GT4 race is now down onto the pit lane, and it's going to be interesting to see if Timo Hayden follows him. He does not, so Hayden inherits the race lead, and Emmanuel Isaacson down onto the pit lane for his stop.
Yeah, so was followed in by one driver at least, but not Matt Loveridge, but Adam Isaacson instead. So that gives you an indication of how far you can go. That's 40 minutes, I make it, for Isaacson, or at least 39, because he was in with 1 hour and 12 to go. And have I done that maths right? 32? Yeah, that's 39, isn't it? So that's a long stint, and I think we're seeing again the lengths that you can actually go to in these cars with the fuel loads that are given to them. I think it's the perfect amount, to be honest, Jack, because I do want to see 2 pit stops in a race, and that's generally the case in any race, by the way. I just think it's always a bit more three-dimensional, a race, when you've got to make a pit stop on 2 occasions. However, it can also be the case where you're so close to making it on one stop that you start seeing a lot of fuel saving. You start to see people trying to make it, but also on the other side of the spectrum, you don't want it where everybody's pitting on the same lap and doing the same thing of just doing 2 stops, fully filling up with fuel and then getting back going again. I think we've got the balance right here in terms of a roughly 40-minute stint at absolute maximum around some of the lower burn circuits like this one here at Mugello. At Daytona they can still survive on 2 stops. They're not risking 1 stop at any circuit around the place, but they are getting great flexibility as to what they do with their strategy. It's pretty much perfect in terms of the interest that you get from strategy without making it 1 stop or making it too simple in terms of having to do 2 stops.
I think that, as you say, the balance in this series has been sort of got almost spot on, really, with how the pit stops work. Of course, it is a 2-stop race. I think it's nigh on impossible to do it in 1 stop. The fuel tanks are just slightly too small, but just give us a lot of variety in how the pit stops are done, and the strategy pays out as Timo Hayden now heads down onto the pit lane from the lead in GT format. Leverage will take over the lead in that class. Of course, the regulations could be opened up a little bit and increase the fuel tank sizes to allow for a potential one-stop race, but I think if that was going to be done, it needs to be done in a way that really promotes a very fuel-saving heavy race. And if you're out at the front of the field, it's something that's not really going to happen. And I think maybe Daytona really is the only place that, and maybe Fuji as well with that nice long straight, is sort of the only place that could potentially open up the possibility for a one-stop race if the fuel tank size was increased. But if we were going to see a one-stop race, I do believe with the current rules that we have in this series, it was going to be at the last round at Daytona. That didn't happen, which tells me that the rules are very much focused on a two-stop race. But the variety that we see it's great to see, and we've seen it week in, week out, and people trying different things. Of course, Impulse have greatly benefited for having some interesting strategy moves, and actually, as we see now, this is Timo Hayden getting past Ashley Finch. They're on 2 very different strategies. Finch not having yet made his second pit stop, but something very important as Hayden goes round. He hits the sausage dog curb. I was about to say that Hayden has managed to get within a second of Thomas Marks Burgess. However, that has gone completely out of the window, and Hayden is now dropping by the load behind, and I think that's going to give Thomas Marks Burgess a very comfortable cushion at the head of the GT4 Pro field.
Well, where is Adam Isaacson in that case? Can't find him actually. He must be nearby, because he's made a pit stop. Oh, he has got past. Yeah, he's gone past so quickly. I missed him. So Adam Isaacson is even now ahead of Timo Hayden, the championship leader, who was meant to gain points on his main rival here today, is all of a sudden behind him, and it goes back again to these curbs on the inside of some of the corners around here. To be honest with you, I don't know why they've got these curbs around the place at all. This circuit has been drawn up very well in that it's got grass and gravel to each side of it, and so track limits shouldn't really need enforcing, especially on the insides of corners. But anyway, that's not the point really for Timo Hayden. The point is he's bobbled over them, he's spun around, and all of a sudden a great chance to gain points on his nearest rival has gone up in smoke, and all of a sudden he's losing points to almost everybody that matters in this race.
I think Timo Hayden now is going to be the lead of the let's ban the sausage dog curb movement. I think RaceSpot's Paul Smith is going to be not far behind him. I know Paul very, very anti sausage dog curb, and to be honest, I'm not far behind him either. I think they're dangerous, and as you say, this track very much covered in grass and gravel, so I'm not really sure why the track limits need to be enforced by something that could cause a lot of damage to both car and driver. But Timo Hayden, yeah, he's on the back foot now. He's dropped behind Adam Isaacson. I think that's probably going to put him 4th or 5th come at the end of the pit stops. We are going to have to wait and see how these transpire out. We are still waiting for Matt Loveridge to make some pit stops, and also in the battle of those who have made pit stops are a couple of drivers who have not done so. Ashley Finch and Kun Siasbo in the 11 Mercedes, both having not made a pit stop, and they are currently between Thomas Marks Burgess and Adam Isaacson. But Marks Burgess has currently got a lead of about 8 seconds, Ewan, so that's a nice comfortable gap at the front of the field, and I think Matt Loveridge will probably slot in between himself and the driver of Thomas Marks Burgess.
Absolutely. So we'll do all the tossing up as to what that means in the next few moments, but that is not good news for Timo Hayden at all. 3.23 seconds just behind Adam Isaacson at the moment. Loveridge and the others are going to be those who are fighting for the win here. Thomas Marks Burgess now out of the pit lane, quite some way ahead of Timo Hayden, as you might be able to expect. Loveridge is going to leave it a little bit longer, but don't forget he took on a pretty much full tank of fuel that first time round, whereas neither of the Impulse drivers did, so that's why they're in quite so early this time round compared to Loveridge, who will now lead for well, a while, I think, before he makes his final stop. 26.5 minutes remaining. Still think we're a while away from seeing these two in pit lane as well. Nathan Moore just dropping a second or so away. This is the danger always for me when you're driving around and you're not quite going for the lead as much as you maybe could be. If you're not trying to overtake, all of a sudden you can get a bit of traffic between yourself and the leader. All of a sudden you can lose a second or so. And right now, Nathan Moore has some catching up to do. So, may not be his fault at all, but if I was him, I would be trying to get the lead as keenly as possible, because if you're in the lead, you can't necessarily be caught out in traffic the same way as you can when you're the trailing driver.
Yeah, and I think Nathan Moore, I would say, driving a very calculated race here in the 88 and really sort of thinking through the remaining 25 minutes of this race and how it's going to play out. Obviously, we haven't really seen an attack for the lead, maybe believing that he does not have the pace. Christoph Herbigno actually having the slightly faster, sort of fastest lap out of these two. In fact, Christoph Herbigno having the fastest lap of the race so far of 41.080 compared to Nathan Moore's 41.238 is his personal best from the event. So Christoph Herbigno maybe having a little bit more raw pace. Nathan Moore recognising that. I think also maybe understanding they don't want to lose time. I mean, they have 20 seconds back to third. It's not exactly like, you know, someone's right behind them, but maybe not wanting to lose the time, maybe not wanting to risk it either, with the points being, you know, he's going to get a good points haul here. It's still incredibly important for the championship, and finishing second is going to write off potentially a fourth or a fifth place position for Nathan Moore that he's got earlier on in the season. So that's going to help his point score potentially. You know, there'll be a reason why he hasn't been attacking, because we have seen Nathan Moore incredibly aggressive at times in the championship so far. But also moments like this where he's sort of got a clear run through traffic and Christoph Herbigno is stuck in the traffic. That's going to help Moore. So Moore's losing a little bit of time. He's then going to gain it back, and it's a bit like a yo-yo at the end of the day with a bit of elastic. Car off to the outside there. That's the number 22 Porsche, Francois Perdereau. He on his debut in the series having some stride through 10:15.
Well, I saw the leader go through, went out of shot, and then saw a car off. Thought, oh dear. Well, it wasn't Christoph Herbigno on this occasion. There's more pit stops in GT4 Pro, by the way, mean that Matt Loveridge is leading by 41 seconds now. Biggest lead we've seen for pretty much anybody, pretty much all day in this race. It's round 6 of the World Sportscar Championship tonight, and this is what happened. A spin for the Porsche, Francois Perdereau, who very sensibly reverses himself into the gravel, and because this isn't real life, you can actually get yourself out again, and so you can get back onto the circuit safely, and that was one of the most safe things I've ever seen anybody do.
Yeah, very, very, very safe rejoin from Francois there, and very well executed. Of course, the gravel in the dry being much more forgiving. In the wet, Ewan, it's a little bit harder to get out of. You got to sort of really feed in the throttle and be careful not to book yourself down. But in the dry conditions, it's much easier to get yourself out of the gravel. Of course, wet weather not a concern to the drivers in this series. It's not quite supported on these cars of car classes yet, with the new iRacing weather system that we saw implemented in March. Looking at the battle for third position in GT4 Pro, this is Kim Andre Bjorklund going up against Thomas Marks Burgess, and then Lee King McGee is going to be splitting them in the AM car with Richard Simner leading the way in this pack. So actually for Thomas Marks Burgess, this is quite an important one, because all the cars ahead of him here, Ewan, have not pitted yet. He is at the back of this pack. You've got Lee King McGee running in third in AM in the middle. And you know, he doesn't want to lose too much time here. Yes, he has an advantage over the likes of Adam Isaacson and Timo Hayden, but still got to worry about Matt Loveridge, who is now down onto the pit lane. So from the lead of GT4 Pro, he has come down onto the pit lane. He's still stationary. It's going to be a long stop for Loveridge, still now at 30 seconds. And in fact, actually through is going to go the driver of Thomas Marks Burgess. It's an incredibly long stop for Loveridge, 36 seconds. He's now going to be moving. I think actually could be at risk of losing positions here to Adam Isaacson.
I thought there was going to be a short one there for Loveridge, because he had a relatively long stop first time round. So not sure quite why it was that long there too Through goes Thomas Mox Burgess. That was expected. What about Isaacson and Hayden? They're not far away, you know. Isaacson could be through here. I think he will be. Don't know for the moment. We'll try and let you know when we do. But Isaacson does get through. Well, I'm not entirely sure how Matt Loveridge has let that happen. He's even 8 seconds slower than those two that time round. Now, they had long stops that time round. Loveridge was supposed to be the one having shorter stop. He was supposed to be 8 seconds shorter. Never mind, 8 seconds longer. I don't know what... I just don't feel like it's long enough for a penalty, so I don't know what he's done.
Yeah, unless he's only taken 15 seconds of fuel, I'm not really sure as to why he's got a penalty there. That seems a bit of an odd one.
Maybe, actually. Maybe that would have been enough fuel. 15 seconds.
15 seconds, yeah. 13 laps to go, potentially is. So maybe, for Matt Loveridge, he's got himself a speeding penalty down on pit lane. Actually, no, with 37 seconds stop, I think it'll be a bit tight on fuel. So there could also be taking tyres for the 71. This is going to be a circuit that does use the tyres a lot more. And of course, with the higher track temperatures that we've seen, some of the highest track temperatures we've seen all season, in fact, as the dates we've been running have kind of lended to colder track temperatures, whereas running around midday in Italy this time of year is going to be a bit warmer. So running slightly higher track temperatures, maybe these cars trying to use or using a little bit more of the tyre. Thomas Marks Burgess down the inside of Kim Audrey Bjorkland down into the last corner, getting that done with ease. And actually, I think now for Thomas Marks Burgess in a very comfortable position. And in fact, he could get ahead of Richard Simner here for the race lead in GT4 Pro. And Simner hasn't even come down onto the pit lane yet. Josh Boot actually currently leading GT4 overall.
Yeah, that's a bit crazy in itself, to be honest with you. And Jack Osborne ahead of everybody else in the other of the AM drivers up there. So it's a bit of a weird front end to this field at the moment, but a great battle for third place on backwards. Just not helping Thomas Fox Burgess, really. He's pretty lucky that he's got a very large margin now to those behind, and the fact that Loveridge is not really in his conversation anymore means that he can sort of pick these guys off when he wants to. Down the inside of Leaky McGee goes there, and he's got it wrong. Thomas Marks Burgess has got it wrong, and he's in the gravel now. He's going to get going again without too much fuss, but where are those who are chasing him? It would be Adam Isaacson who'd be first on the scene, if would you believe it, in terms of those who could challenge him for a race win. And there is the yellow car in the background. All of a sudden, this race isn't quite over just yet.
It's not, but Thomas Marks Burgess still got a comfortable lead at the front of the GT4 field, although it is only down now to around 4 seconds. So the gap really cut in half at least for Marks Burgess, and Isaacson now having another chance to regain some point. If you think sort of an hour ago, and sort of 50 minutes ago, he was in a wall on the main straight, and now he's back into second position, comfortably in second position, hunting down the leader. And maybe Marks Burgess starting the pressure, starting to get to him. He's been in control of this GT4 Pro race for so long now that it's starting to wear off, of course, as we head into the closing stages of the race. Still not currently leading on circuit. That is Richard Simno and Kim Andre Bjorkland are ahead of him in the pro standings, but both of them yet to pit. So Thomas Marks Burgess is the effective leader. Once we go through the rest of the second pit cycle, he's the leading of the cars that have done 2 stops so far. 2 cars that haven't yet stopped between himself and Adam Isaacson as well. You can see them in the background. That is the driver of Ashton Finch and Consansbo as well in the number 11 car. So there are a couple of cars between them if Adam Isaacson wants to put a challenge on now, but with 18 minutes remaining, I think it's a big job to overcome that. He needs a lot of luck in traffic, or rather Thomas Marks Burgess needs a lot of unluck in traffic.
Well, neither are impossible with 18 minutes to go. Just behind Thomas Marks Burgess, Leaky McKee is just ahead, excuse me. Ashley Finch will get out of the way not too long away, and Cody Consabe as well, though Finch has probably got a while yet before stopping. I don't think we'll be going to the end. That will be outrageous, but it will be an interruption for the next few moments in GT4. This is where the action really is. That group that Thomas Marks Burgess has left behind is still there. Richard Simner has been able to get away as a result, and Kim Andre Butler and Leaky McGee are the only ones left really in that group of 4, as Mads Kjeldsen continues in the lead of LMP3 AM. Looks like he is in it for the long haul now. He's made his final pit stop, and he's going on to take a race win very possibly here and jump from 3rd to 1st in the championship standings. He'll certainly jump ahead of Mac Farquhar. I'm pretty sure he'll jump ahead of Petter Herschel as well in what could be a pretty important and a pretty good day for Kjeldsen all in all.
Yeah, Kjeldsen really in control of this LMP3 AM field at the moment. Joost Buurmester really just sort of putting on a challenge using his alternative strategy that he has tried so much all season, really. Not quite playing out today. I think Mads Kjeldsen maybe having a little bit more raw pace as well than the 48, which has led into the 23's hands and able to pull him away at the head of the AM field. And of course with Petter Herschel not having a score here today. Today will be one of his drop scores. I think that will very likely play into the hands of Mads Kjeldsen for the championship. Josh Boot in the 606, not only leading the GT4 AM category, leading GT4 overall at the moment, however, yet to make his second pit stop of the race. Jack Osborne, who's been running in second, is down onto the pit lane and now heading back out onto the racing surface after making his second pit stop of the race. On your screens, this is Matt Loveridge and Timo Heiden. This is going to be for effective third place in this race, so the final step of the podium.
Yep, it certainly is, as Christophe Herbenier makes his way down pit lane now. Nathan Moore will lead, so maybe I'll start to believe him that he did put a bit more fuel in, because he's clearly got an extra lap out of that car. And well, it's going to be interesting in both the front of LMP3 and GT4, you would think, pretty soon. Loveridge so close to the back of Heiden, and with the way that he's closing in here in terms of lap times, surely he's going to be through before long here, through up the right-hander, through the middle sector, and this could be a dive down the inside, down the right-hander of turn 10. It's only a half look from Loveridge, and he does need to get on with it. If he wants to move any further forward than Timo Heiden here, he needs to get on with this pretty quickly, because he will run out of time otherwise.
Yeah, I think if he's not passed in the next 2 minutes or so, I think the challenge for trying to get Matt Loveridge up towards Adam Isaacson for second position in the pro category is not going to happen. But Timo Heiden currently keeping Loveridge behind as they head through 13 and 14 one more time. But Loveridge looking incredibly competitive, looking down the inside into the final corner. He is alongside, getting stopped on the brakes. The inside run here is very strong on the entry, but this might give Heiden a bit of a better run on the exit. Heiden also potentially carrying a little bit of damage, but Loveridge able to get the move done down the inside nice and cleanly. However, Heiden now going to get the slipstream down this very long main straight across the line one more time with 40 minutes and 10 seconds remaining on the clock. I think if Loveridge can hold on to this one into the first corner, he's going to be able to get away. And if Heiden sort of is a bit sensible, he could follow Loveridge here, try and pull themselves back up towards towards Adam Isaacson, apologies, and actually start to the 23 around. That's not what you want to see. That's Mads Kjeldsen. That's the leader in LMP3 AM. He's gone round and he's stopped. He's only just rejoining this racing surface now. He's still leading the race. And Joost Buurmester, he's within seconds, but still in second position here.
Yeah, but how much damage is there? Joost Buurmester might be able to get there pretty soon. Nathan Moore's already on his way out as well here as we look at the replay. This is going to be an important moment to have our eyes everywhere, isn't it? Down the inside went Kjeldsen then, and he just went skating deep into the corner, got on the grass, and then tried to correct his slide and went straight into the wall. Well, that was Kjeldsen driving in the grass on his own, I'm afraid, and a mistake he's going to be absolutely kicking himself for. He is still leading, but the gap's less than a second already, because surely he's got damage on that car.
He definitely has. He's lost the front clip on that Ligier, so he's going to have to come down onto the pit lane, make another pit stop to replace the front clip. Should have a fast repair remaining for the 23, and it is indeed down to a second, 3/10 in fact, for Joost Buurmester to try and get back into the lead of LMP3 AM. I believe something that is going to occur. This is a replay up on your screen. Nikolai Loft in the 69. What's happened here around the outside? Lost it. That's Timo Heiden on the inside. So Heiden once again avoiding disaster. Nikolai Loft being caught by the gravel on the outside of 8. In the lead of the race overall as Joost Buurmester heads into the lead of LMP3 AM. Christophe Herbenier has got out ahead of Nathan Moore. However, the gap is only around a second. Nathan Moore His pit stop was about 2 seconds faster, Ewan, but not able to capitalise on that. Obviously having a slightly slower in lap, catching some traffic. I'm surprised Nathan Moore didn't come in at the same time as Christoph and try and jump him in the pit stops at the same time. That would have been my approach if I was in the 88.
Yeah, that does sort of reduce the variables in that way, doesn't it, really, in terms of having a bad in-lap versus the rival having a good out-lap. Mads Kjeldsen, by the way, has come into the pit lane here, so from race winner and championship leader, as he was going to be about 5 minutes ago, now is he going to get a podium? He's in the background there, just re-emerging. He is going to be ahead of Matt Farker and will be on the podium at least, so that's a consolation. But Joost Bouwmeester is going to be the new leader, and what must he be feeling at this stage? He must be awash with emotions right now, as he came into the day in 4th in the championship. Is he vaulting himself all the way up to the very top? It very much could be for him here today, and the most unexpected of situations for him, I suppose, as well, which I'm not really sure how that will make a driver feel, really, whether that takes away from the enjoyment at all or not. But Bouwmeester's got to bring this one home now, because I bet Kjeldsen was feeling comfortable in his previous situation. Bouwmeester's got to remind himself of that, and remind himself that there are still over 10 minutes remaining.
Yeah, and I think in situations like this, especially when we're getting to the tail end of a championship and every point is going to count, you take every opportunity you can get. Of course, it's awful to see that Mads Kjeldsen has lost that lead and that opportunity at a race win. In fact, there's a car off in the background. That's Mads again. The 23 has gone off in the background of your shots. Richard Simner now down onto the pit lane. Kim Andre Bjorklund is going to follow him in. So Tom Marks Burgess now cycling back to the lead of the GT4 race. And we can start to get an idea of the gaps in this category now. Adam Isaacson 6 seconds back. This is the battle between Timo Hayden and Matt Loveridge. Just to swap back again, with Timo Hayden being able to get back ahead, but Matt Loveridge putting a challenge on down into turn number 1 on the outside. He has got his nose ahead, but he is going to be on the outside lines. They head up the hill, but able to shut the door on Timo Hayden. Hayden drops her back to 4th once again. I think they know they can't catch Adam Isaacson at this point, so they're just going to have a good scrap for the last step of the podium here and take every point either of them can get at this stage.
Yeah, who would have thought Adam Isaacson was going to finish second, by the way, after about half an hour in this race? I would not have put money on that, but there you go. He looks like he is going to finish there now. Matt Loveridge and Timo Hayden will continue to fight for third, and that's one of the only battles, really. It is the only battle for position, in fact, in GT4 now. And it looks like Matt Loveridge is going to be the one who prevails in that battle as well. So, at the end of the day, Adam Isaacson may well be the championship leader here, or might well be very close to it. I think he is just only going to get closer to it and not actually get it instead. But nevertheless, what a recovery drive from him. Talk about getting the maximum that you possibly can out of the day. Well, Isaacson certainly has done that, because while he did have a problem and a hit on the wall earlier on that some may have seen as avoidable, although I don't really think it was his fault, he's got the absolute maximum he could out of today. After that, he couldn't have been expected to win here, but I don't even think he was expecting to maybe even be on the podium, certainly not second place at the end of the day when that incident happened. So remarkable, really, to see that he's been able to get so much out of what looked like a difficult day at one point.
Yeah, and Isaacson, we've seen this throughout this season. When he has been in strife, he's able to recover himself quite well. Of course, being involved in an incident at Daytona, recovering to score good points there. Same with Barcelona, a self-inflicted incident very early on in the race, which led him to run a 3-stop strategy because it happened so early with the floor damage. It was not worth carrying it through to the opening of the pit window. Still recovering himself to get some good points there. So getting a second position here today, I think it will help his championship. Of course, it's going to knock off the score, potentially knock off the score from Daytona, where he wasn't quite so strong due to the incident, but of course managed to get himself back up. In fact, actually, I think he might have finished on the podium at Daytona if my memory serves me correctly. However, I could possibly be wrong about that, of what's happened in my life in the last 2 weeks. So this is sort of characteristic Adam Isaacson really here. Christoph Herbigno, he's pushing that 92 hard, because that was sideways coming out of turn number 5. I don't think that's risk that Herbigno needs to be taking with 7 minutes to go. He has got the pace over Nathan Moore. I'm not sure whether sort of running it on the ragged edges is really what he needs to be doing at this stage of the race.
Well, you say that, but Nathan Moore is not that far behind him right now, and he's not running it that far away from the ragged edge himself. So I would argue that Christoph Herbigno probably does need to push quite close to the edge otherwise he's going to get caught here. I think that the big worry for him is that Moore gets into the slipstream range by the front straight of any of these laps that we have remaining, and there won't be many now, maybe only 4 when we get to the line here. So that's his big worry at the moment. He just wants to keep Moore at arm's length. Herbino does not want this to go to a wheel-to-wheel battle.
No, I think you are right, and Herbino is very much in a position where he is vulnerable. One unlucky piece of traffic, as you've just seen here, with one of the Impulse Racing cars. That's the 72 of Thomas Marks Burgess leading the way in GT4. You can see already his advantage. He had his slashed, and he is slow down the main straight. So this is the advantage. This is the kind of opportunity that Nathan Moore really needs. It's going to be within half a second by the time they reach the braking zone for turn number 1. 4 laps remaining here at Mugello for round number 6 of the World Sportscar Championship. Last time around, Nathan Moore running about 3/10 faster, and I suspect now back in draft range, Christophe Herbino is going to be looking in his rearview mirror. So, okay, 1 lap ago I was saying he's a bit safer. We've seen that he's had the pace, and Nathan Moore not able to put a challenge on towards the end of the second stint when they were together. Whether he's going to be able to do it at the end of the third stint, I'm still not quite sure, but I guarantee that Nathan Moore's going to try in the remaining 3.5 laps.
Yeah, it's you would have thought he's going to give it a go, and this is not going to be a great place to catch either. Oh, for Herbino, a bit of miscommunication as well between him and the lap car as to which side they were going to go. More backed off slightly to not get into a similar situation, and they will extend that gap all over again here. Meanwhile, this is a bit further back in GT4. Has Matt Loveridge secured a podium? It looks like he has. Wonder what Timo Hayden's going to look back on today and think, because he was running okay at one stage, but did put himself in the wall at turn 3, and unfortunately he's lost quite a few points to quite a lot of his championship rivals, and the only one he might have been pleased to lose points to is his teammate Sasha Anglesey, but that's the only one he hasn't lost to. So he might be looking back at today and thinking that what an opportunity missed this actually was, but he may well still be the championship leader by the end of the day. It's just a very nervy time, and it feels in some ways as if we're all gearing up for that final race of the season where you can't take your drop round, so it's going to be everything matters at that stage of the season, and all of your efforts have to go into that race. It's going to be maybe more complicated and complex than that, but it's feeling like at the moment everything coming down to those final few, that one final race indeed, when we go to Sebring for round 8. We'll wait and see, of course. 7.5 seconds to go. Well, 7.5 seconds is the gap, sorry, for Thomas Marks Burgess, who might be just weaseling his way into that fight as well. That's the one of the larger gaps, although the only small one really is probably for the overall lead. 23 for Joost Boomhoest, who really wasn't expecting to win this probably. Josh Boot probably was, and we haven't really spoken about him today, to be honest, but he's the championship leader. He's very much shown that today, and he's going to extend that to well over double what it was at the start of today. So Josh Boot can be nothing but pleased with how he's run today, and he would be pleased if he'd run in pro today. That's how strong he's been.
And actually, you can see Josh Boot leading these two. This is Michael Pedersen and Adam Watson, who are fighting for 5th position in pro, and Josh Boot is ahead of both of them. Of course, Adam Watson just been crowned the Pro-Am champion for the World GT Championship, the sister championship to the World Sportscar Championship that ran on Monday nights on RaceSpotTV, and sort of rounded its season off last week at Sebring, where we're going to be rounding our season off as well. So Adam Watson is going to have some experience heading into that final round as well. He's here for the final 3 rounds just to get out and track and gain some experience. Back to the lead of LMP3 Pro, and Christophe Herbino has indeed managed to get away at the head of the field, 4/10 faster last time around than Nathan Moore. The gap is now 1.8 seconds as they head on to the final lap. No, apologies, the penultimate lap of the race. I misread the one at the start of the lap remaining counter on my timing screen. But yes, Josh Boot, an absolutely incredible performance in GT4 Am really has been all season, and I think that's going to be one of the championships that we're going to see. I think the points are close, but it's going to be very hard. Jack Osborne is going to be really the other driver who could be a threat come the end of the season. Of course, didn't compete the opening 2 rounds of the championship, so really has got sort of pressure on his shoulders to be able to make the most of the remaining rounds and score the maximum points he has. If he has one bad round, that's his championship threat over. But having 2-0 scores, it still puts him in contention for the championship when we head to Sebring.
Yeah, exactly. You can get away with that. And as I say, there is, what I said earlier anyway, there is one more drop round this season than there was last season when we got the one. But we do have a third more races this time round. This would have been the finale if we'd have been using the same format as the one just on the other side of Christmas. Well, that feels like a long time ago already. It was 6 rounds for season 1. One drop round out of the first 5, but we got 2 out of the first 7 here in this season of the championship. And as I said earlier, I think that's a good way to go with it. There is the leader over the line to take the white flag. Christophe Herbignaud has got one more time around. It looks like he has successfully kept Nathan Moore at arm's length, which was looking pretty difficult to do at one stage in this race.
Nathan Moore has been incredibly strong all season long. Definitely seems to be finding a little bit more pace in these cars in the second half of the championship. But Christophe Herbignaud, another driver, been incredibly strong. Obviously, Matt Caruana dropping out early on in the first round of pit stops as we see Adam Hedgecock in the 13 go for a spin, just about avoids the tyre barrier and gets himself back underway again. This is Remy Fortin, 4th place in Pro, and he's gone off at the first corner. Again, another driver managing to avoid the tyre barriers, and he's rejoined the racing surface in 4th position. He's got a nice gap back to Nikolai Loft. We're going to watch Thomas Marks Burgess. He's going to take the white flag as he comes over the line to start his last lap of the race. He's got an 8-second advantage, Ewan, as he heads towards his first win in the World Sportscar Championship this season.
And that will be 5 different winners in the first 6 for GT4 Pros, which will be fantastic to see. Joost Boomeister is not on his way to his first win. In fact, his 3rd, which will be the most of anyone in LMP3 AM. Christophe Herbignaud will be going to the same in that Pro class, and Josh Boot is also going for a 3rd. So we're seeing a very much tied record shared among 3 of those who are going to take wins today. And the championship leader is only seconds away from doing it again. Out of the final corner at Mugello, he's held off an onslaught from Nathan Moore, but Christophe Herbignaud is going to extend his championship lead with his 3rd win in the World Sportscar Championship for Season 2. He takes it at Mugello ahead of Nathan Moore in 2nd position with the checker flag waving. Just in behind, Joost Boomeister has made it onto a separate lap, so he's going to win by a lap in LMP3 AM. In GT4 Pro, Thomas Fox Burgess is going to win for the first time to take us to 5 different winners in the first 6 races, which is a remarkable record really. But Thomas Fox Burgess does deserve it. He's been strong since he ever came into the series actually, and now he's got his race win to show for it as well.
Yeah, as you say, Thomas Marks Burgess joining the series on round 2, if my memory serves me correctly, and been very strong with his Impulse Racing teammates, but never quite had the outright pace to be able to challenge for the race wins. That has gone to Sasha Anglesey and Timo Hayden to fight for those wins, but today was not their day. Today was the day of Thomas Marks Burgess. The lights are flashing as he weaves down the main straight to take his first win of the season in the World Sportscar Championship. 8 seconds behind will be that of Adam Isaacson on a great recovery drive after being in the wall on the main straight in the opening half an hour. Josh Boot in the 606 are still battling it out with Michael Pedersen, who they're not even in the same class, but Pedersen actually going to go defensive across the line, but Josh Boot I don't think will care too much at this point. Another race win for the 606 in his challenge for the title in GT4 AM.
And what a challenge that is becoming now for Josh Boot. He's looking almost insurmountable. He will have gained at least 5 points today on his nearest rivals to extend that advantage further. As Joost Boomeister comes over the line as well, he will be the LMP3 AM winner for the 3rd time this season. It's just a shame about his other races this time round, because he came into only 4th in the standings. That may well change and turn around by the end of the day. But that is it for 90 minutes of racing here at Mugello. It's Christophe Herbignaud wins by 3.5 seconds ahead of Nathan Moore. Julien Plumet joins him on the podium, despite being a pretty under-the-radar race. Remy Fortin and Nikolai Loft round out the top 5, with the first-time driver, Joost Boomeister, in 6th. It's Nicholas Skitsin at 7th place, and Mads Kjelton, who'll be bitterly disappointed not to win in AM today. Matt Lafaka and Mert Menderes round out the top 10. Also a lap down where Adam Hedgecock and Dan Blackwell, and then already we get into the GT4s. Thomas Vaux-Burgess winning in Pro, ahead of Adam Isaacson, Matt Loveridge and Timo Hayden, all of whom had problems today. Michael Pedersen finished inside the top 5 with Josh Boot, the AM winner, ahead of new driver Adam Watson and Richard Simner, who came home inside the overall top 20. Also on the same lap were Kim-Andre Björklund, Jack Osborne, Lee McGee and Ashley Finch. Kegli Consabo was a lap down in the end, so was Sasha Anglesey, who spun off towards the end of the race in the final sector. It was Jack Wilkins, Evan Tafas, Francois Perdral, the final of those, to get to the end in a reasonable time. Unfortunately, the bottom 8 did not. Matt Caruana pulled into the pit lane for his second pit stop and just never re-emerged. Ben Gregory had some internet problems. Peter Herschel had a crash at the final corner, along with Taylor Lane, who crashed at a similar point. It was Leopold Mann also who retired, along with Callum Brett, and then those in the GT4s. Lee Berridge, Jeremy Rouleau, who couldn't qualify, barely got going, and Manuel Gexella, who crashed early as well. Well, that was your 52 laps around here at Mugello, and as always, Joost Bouwmeester joins us for a chat after winning a race. And for a third time this season, Joost, good to have you with us again. That now means you've won half of the races so far this season, but this one must be in the most unexpected of circumstances compared to the other two. Just tell me what you were feeling in those final 15 minutes or so when you saw that opportunity come up in front of you.
The only thing I was feeling for the final 15 minutes was my sweat. I forgot to turn my fan on and it's quite hot here. As soon as I saw Keltsen he made some kind of mistake. I saw a front bumper lying around somewhere. Now I saw him driving slow. That's where I knew that I was gonna have it, because the next car behind me was at about 18 seconds. And it kind of feels like he Keltsen had it in the bag, really.
Well, it was a very late change, of course, and it gives you your third race win of the season. How have you viewed this season so far? Because despite you having the biggest win tally, and you had the tied biggest win tally coming into today even, you were still only 4th in the championship, which doesn't feel like a long way back, I suppose, but for someone who's won the tied most races of anybody, feels like a little bit lower than maybe where you should be. How have you viewed the first part of this season now that we've got 6 rounds to go and we're very much into the double-header finale with the final 2 rounds coming up?
Yeah, it kind of feels weird not to be in the lead with like 2 wins ahead of this race. I think I should be in the lead by now, but yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, maybe we'll see. But yeah, at least I have the consistency, which I do feel will pay out in the end. I mean, we've got like 2 drop rounds.
Yep.
And my low scores were like a P4 and a P3. So I think in the end I'll get there.
Yeah, it does put you in good stead, especially for this round and the next one as well. Although it will all go out the window for the final round when everyone is free to go for it, I suppose, without the constraints of drop round, if you like. As you say, I think you will just about be the championship leader, although I can't quite do the maths to work it out specifically at this moment. But it will be close, but I think you will just about get it after this race win. Congratulations on another win. It's great to speak to you again, and look forward to seeing you again in a couple of weeks.
Cheers, man.
Thanks very much, Joost Bouwmeester there, the winner from LMP3 AM. I'll just hold off for one moment as well, because Thomas Vaux-Burgess looks like he's joined our team speak for a chat. He's looks like he'll be a first-time race winner in the World Sportscar Championship, becoming the 5th different driver to win a race this season in the GT4 Pro class, after Timo Hayden twice, Adam Isaacson, Sasha Anglesey, Matt Loveridge, and now Thomas Vaux-Burgess as well, who can join us. Welcome in, Thomas, good to have you with us, speaking to you after a race win. You're the 5th different race winner in this class this season in 6 rounds. How are you feeling after that race?
Tired. It's very hot in the UK today. It's been a very hot and long race, but yeah, just very happy, trying to was trying to keep it clean the whole race, look after my tyres as much as I could. And thankfully it paid off despite the small spin.
By very hot, of course, we mean that's a British very hot. It's been about 20, but I agree. it's quite frankly unfair, actually. But anyway, how was the race overall? Because there was a lot going on for other people. Pretty much all 4 of the guys ahead of you in the championship had some form of spin problem or something else today. But you seem to avoid all of that. How was the race overall in that respect?
Yeah, it's unfortunate, especially for Timo and Sasha. We all could have been up there quite easily, I'd like to say. But, you know, things happen. But yeah, for me, it's just, I was trying to keep it clean, was looking after the tyres and trying to save as much fuel as I could at the start. But once I got into the lead, I was trying to stretch it out a little bit here and there. But yeah, I spun as well, trying to get past some GT4s. I had a small incident, but luckily I didn't lose too much time. And thankfully everyone else's incidents were bigger than mine, so it meant I could get away with it somewhat.
You mentioned your teammates there. Just how has that interaction been since joining the series? How have you guys helped each other or not in the season so far?
We always try and help each other as much as we can. You know, I'm sure you've alluded to it a lot. Our little slipstream trains in qualifying. We really think it was worth doing it today because it's just there's too many high-speed corners to make it worth it. It's just the wash you get out from underneath the car. It's not worth it at all. But we communicate for the races. We let each other know if there's like a P3 coming past, or we talk about strategy, how we want to work as a team. We'll go by on our own way. It's just however we see best for everyone, we will do.
Absolutely. Congratulations on the race win tonight, Thomas, and thanks for chatting to us as well.
Have a good evening.
Thanks very much. Thomas Watts-Burgess there, the race winner from tonight. As we get a new GT4 Pro winner on the board. Fuji International Speedway will be where we're visiting next here, Jack. It's a very different racetrack to this one. A lot wider. It's going to feel very wide with these cars, actually. A very long front straight, which you can see there for slipstreaming opportunities and a dive in towards turn number 1, maybe. A different feel to what's going to start off our double header to end out the second season in the World Sports Car Championship.
Yeah, Fuji, as you say, a very different circuit to what we've had today, and really what we've seen a lot of the season. It's a lot of long sweeping curves and then that very tight and twisty third sector as they head back up the hill towards the long main straight. Of course, this chicane that you can now see on your screens, really one of the other big braking zones on this circuit. Again, it's another circuit that does see a lot of multi-class racing. Drivers will be used to it. The finale of the Ivor Endurance Series happened here just a couple of weeks ago, although the less I'm going to say about that, the better for my own sake. So, it's a circuit that these drivers should be familiar with, and going into the closing stages of this championship, the final round, that the drop scores are going to be important for, and the drivers are going to want a good score here to make sure that they're in a good footing heading into Sebring. But Fuji, it's a circuit that always throws up a surprise, I think, and I think Mugello has proven that as well today in being a very tricky track for multi-class.
Absolutely. Thanks very much to everyone who's been tuned in over the course of the evening and putting up with my voice slightly again today. It's been great to have another 90 minutes under the belt in the World Sports Car Championship, and another great race to go with it as well. I've been Ian Leary alongside Jack Stiles and Mike Yao behind the cameras. Until we see you in a couple of weeks for Fuji in the start of our double header finale in the World Sports Car Championship for Season 2, we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Goodbye for now.